That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month to month basis. It's time to crack open our
Movie Memoirs!
All right. I don't know what that was. I'm sorry, Dragon. Okay. Oh boy. So, Dragon, this has been a slow movie month, but it has not been a slow movie news month. Much to our chagrin, because a lot of the news is very bad. It's very bad. So Dragon, let's start, of course, with the in memoriam, like we usually do. But Dragon, I hate to say it, like obviously the in memoriam comes first as far as like the actual bad news, because these are people's lives. But my God, the HBO Max stuff, folks, it's as close to like cataclysmic as I've seen in a while as far as movie and entertainment related news goes. So we'll get to that. Don't you worry.
It's a catastrophe, to say the least.
All right, Dragon. So of course we'll start with Olivia Newton-John. Dragon, do you know what movie I know her most from? It isn't necessarily Grease. It is Xanadu.
Yeah, that's the one. Those are the two.
Yeah. I'm more of a Xanadu kid. Like, I don't necessarily love Xanadu, but I really don't like Grease. Have we had this conversation before? Have I brought up my dislike of Grease to you before?
Well, I don't think you've mentioned. Tiki, hold on a second. Are you plugged in headphone wise?
Yeah, I am.
All right, because we're getting some. Well, never mind. It's gone. It's gone. We're all good. Sorry about
Okay.
that, folks. Minor technical hiccup.
That
Anywho,
happens from time to time.
anyway, okay. Here's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
Greece. You have mentioned. You never mentioned a distaste for Greece, but you have mentioned a love of Xanadu.
Mm. So yeah, Olivia Newton-John, obviously just a big fixture, kind of starlet of the '80s. Dragon and Xanadu, I don't necessarily like have a big love for it, but I have a big kind of like, I don't know, as the kids would say these days, Dragon, this is one of the pieces of lingo that I really do like from the kids. It's a vibe. Xanadu is a vibe. It is a total vibe, and I like it a lot. Like, it's not a great movie, but I can just kind of live in that world.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that brings us to this one's I don't know if have you looked into Anne Heche? So Anne, we lost Anne
The
Heche
name
this
sounds
month.
so familiar.
Yeah, so Anne Heche, you know her from one thing most assuredly, and none other things.
Uh huh.
Okay, so Anne Heche, most infamously, well, famous or infamous, depending who you ask. She's been in a number of things, but the most infamous thing she ever did was she was in the Psycho remake playing Marion Crane. She
Oh
was
man. Oh yeah. That's where I know the name from. Yeah,
yeah.
because her name was on all those posters.
So that's the
That's
main
funny.
thing, and I know her oddly enough more for her. I also know in terms of live action, I've seen her in three things. Seen her in Psycho. She was in the other guys in kind of like a plot fixture role of like she was like the lady on top that they were all who was like kind of like going after David Ershon in the
Oh yeah,
movie.
sure. Right.
And the thing I saw her in most recent, like the last thing I saw her in was All Rise. She played kind of like a legal kind of
Oh
like
no.
eagle of a lawyer, like not an eagle of a lawyer, but kind of like a viper of a lawyer. Very much like, oh, you don't want to be on the wrong side of this lady.
Uh huh.
So beyond that, I knew her for her voice work. So she was Lois Lane in the first direct video, DC anime movie they did, the Superman Doomsday. She was Lois Lane in that. But what I really knew her, the best thing, and you and I both know her from in animation, is she's Lin Beifong's sister, Su Yin. I think it's Su Yin
Oh
Beifong.
okay. Yeah.
And she did a really good job in that role too. I really liked her. She was kind
Yeah,
of like
she
a
did.
mentor to Korra in that teaching her metal bending and everything. So yeah, she was. So that's the thing. I thought she did a really good job with that. So it's like Anne Heche. She's kind of one of those familiar Hollywood names. Like, oh yeah, Anne Heche. Yeah, I believe she dated Ellen for a while back in the day. It was like that's you kind of knew Anne Heche. So here's the thing, Anne Heche. I had no idea she had such problems. She had a lot of mental illness apparently. I had no
Mm.
idea. And in the last days, things had gotten really bad. there were some apparently she had suffered a lot of traumas, like including like during the Me Too thing. Weinstein, did stuff to her. Wasn't nice. And that was kind of like that kind of got kicked up when that thing happened. And basically, I don't know if that maybe had kind of set off events in the years since or what. But again, she had been working since then, stuff like All Rise, kind of like maybe a year or two ago. And the day she died, Tiki, I don't know if you've heard any of this. Like she was on, I don't know if it was a breakdown or what, but she basically got into a car on drugs,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
she was like she had like three separate car accidents.
Oh,
And car accidents are like she's like hidden like a storage place, and then she kind of like a
yeah.
drive by, and then I forget what the second was, but the last thing that did it was she crashed into a garage of a home, and it was like a fiery combustible, like it was awful. And she basically had burns and was brain dead, and they took her off the thing. That's what killed her. It's utterly just a horrible
Yeah,
ending.
that's, oh, Jesus.
So that's the thing. I mean, it just really came out of left field. I had no idea, but apparently it was a lot of problems, and it was quite just a tragedy in all senses of the word. So yeah.
Okay, well, I don't even know what to say to that one, man. That's a.
I don't think anyone does. That's the thing. It's like, oh my god, that's we had the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh eaten by sharks, but
Oh my
this, my
God.
god, eaten by sea life.
All right. Okay, so next up we have Leon Vitali, right? That's how you
Yes,
pronounce
Yeah,
it.
I think it's how you pronounce it, Leon Vitelli. Yeah. So
Okay.
you recognize Leon, don't you?
Vaguely, Dragon. I will admit Barry Lyndon
Yeah.
and Eyes Wide Shut are not necessarily my go-to Kubrick movies, but looking into the guy, it is very interesting that he has, he was like a big assistant to Kubrick. I could totally see a biopic being framed from this guy's lens. That's the thing.
So here's the fascinating thing about Stanley Kubrick and this guy in relation to him, Tiki, is that Kubrick had two guys who were like, at least as far as we know, there have been two documentaries put out about these two guys. And it's
Uh-huh.
very fascinating, both. And I told you about one of these already. This guy's, I believe, is still around. So I think so. I know he's quite up there in age. I don't know if he may have passed since then or what, but there's a documentary called S is for Stanley. It's about Emilio de Alexandro, if I'm saying his name right. He was basically
Uh-huh.
Stanley
Uh-huh.
Kubrick's Italian driver
Yes,
who
yes,
he
yes.
basically was like his Alfred essentially. This guy was there everywhere with him. And he was very trusted. He was like, and the other
It's
guy that
like
he
if
trusted.
it's like if the Paul Giamatti character in Saving Mr. Banks actually existed in real life.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, but you kind of like more kind of caricatured and such. But yes.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So Amelia has a great story in itself, and then on the flip side, you have a similar story, but in a different way with Leon. Leon was an actor in Barry Lyndon. Essentially, Kubrick liked him; it kept him around, and basically Leon did stuff behind the camera up to the point where essentially I want to say he unofficially helped majorly in the shooting of Eyes Wide Shut when Kubrick may have been not feeling so well. I forget if Eyes Wide Shut was his last film or not. I believe it was.
Eyes Wide Shut was definitely Kubrick's last film. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I forget if he unofficially finished it, but what I do know is that because of that, he had been all about restoring and the film restoration and the recutting and everything of Kubrick's last movies, which includes that and may have also included AI. I'm not sure because I don't know if he had hands in that as well. But
Oh dear God! Can you imagine a Kubrick cut of AI? That would be wild.
well, that's the thing. So all I know is like in points, this guy was kind of like the voice of Kubrick, so he probably was talking with Spielberg during that period, I'd imagine, because he was kind of like
Yeah,
handling the
totally,
last film.
totally.
Essentially, Vitali was a very trusted. He was kind of like the protege of Kubrick, one could say, and he was like assumedly handed the keys of the kingdom at the end. It was like, okay, so like watch over my films and restore them because you're essentially. I believe he was a. I think he ended up being kind of a cinematographer on the Kubrick films. I'm not
Like
sure.
I said,
But he
Dragon,
was.
this guy would absolutely be like the audience surrogate character in a Kubrick biopic.
He absolutely would. So that's what I'm saying. Like Kubrick definitely has as that guy in the comments is saying right now. A Kubrick biopic would be fantastic. We know who should direct that.
I'm
Kubrick
honestly
biopic.
kind of surprised Hollywood hasn't attempted something like that by now.
I think they're scared to. I think they don't want to botch it up.
Yeah.
You know who I think?
I could see Fincher doing it.
I think Christopher Nolan loves Kubrick. He should do it.
But is Nolan really a character guy, though? That's the question.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to find out with this new. You're right, though.
No, that's true. That's true. This new one is probably going to be the most character focused thing he's ever done. So
I think that'll be the big test. because it's also a biopic, which usually, it's I think that'll be the big determining factor. But also Kubrick himself is kind of has a distance from humanity, so that might actually
Who would
play into
play
things.
Kubrick in
So
a biopic? Oh God.
yeah, that's a toughie off the
What
top
about
of my
Fred
head.
Molina?
You mean Alfred Molina?
Yeah, I don't know why I called him Fred Molina. I was
Yeah,
like,
only Sam Raimi calls him Fred Molina.
I was being super casual about it, Dragon.
Oh, but that's the thing.
You know,
Sometimes
our
he's
buddy Fred.
that's the it's weird. There's sometimes he's really cool about that. The whole like again, Sam Raimi can call him like Sam Raimi calls him Fred.
But
Anyway,
seriously,
but
Alfred Molina potentially.
I honestly I can't. I think that's a stellar casting choice.
Yeah,
I'd
thank you,
absolutely
thank you.
want to. I'd want to see that. And off the top of my head, that's probably
The
the best
only other
option.
thing I could think of is just based on his casting as Francis Ford Coppola, and him and Kubrick look kind of similar. Is
Dan's
Dan Vogler?
Yeah, Dan Fogler. Yeah, Dan Fogler's not bad, but again, I think Coppola is kind of like more his speed.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, I could see.
That's the thing is
I could see the other one bringing more intensity.
I'm gonna throw a weird one at you.
Our
Okay,
buddy,
so
our
Molina.
buddy Frank could pull it off.
It's good. It's Fred.
God.
All right, so no, seriously. Here's the thing. I think Alfred Molina is probably the best choice, but off the top of my head, one that does spring to mind potentially, Nick Frost.
Oh man, that's spicy. That's spicy. I like that. I like
Yeah, you
that.
think it might be
It's
a hat
a
in the ring.
bit against type for him because he usually plays like jolly, humble characters. But yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah.
Ooh, honestly, Dragon, that would probably be my go-to at this point.
I mean,
I'm seeing it. I like it.
They're both great English actors. They could probably pull it off. Okay, let's see. So the point being, yes, Kubrick biopic, Hollywood, make it happen.
Anyways,
all right. So this last one really hurt me this month.
Yeah, and Dragon also this happened. The guy lives 2 towns away from me, literally right down the highway. So really, that just made it sting all the more.
So, folks, we lost a Pixar alumni. We lost Ralph Eggleston. Now, Ralph Eggleston, the name may not instantly jump at you. I think there's a memorable name that when you see in the credits, like Eggleston, that's quite memorable. So, Ralph Eggleston, he's been
exactly
there.
What it is. It's kind of like, I feel like these Pixar guys, they are going to get more and more notable as time goes on. You know what I mean? Because it just is the same way like we look at Disney films from Walt's era nowadays, and even down to the background artists, like everyone is a named figure. I feel like the more time goes on, the more these names are going to become prominent.
Yeah, so Eggleston, he'd been around since the beginning of Pixar, their film stuff, and I believe he was like one of the kind of like Joe Ranft. He was a carryover from Disney, where he had worked on The Lion King. So I don't know if it was like kind of a divided, kind of like, because remember at a certain point Disney was bustling, working on many projects.
Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest Dragon.
Yes. My point being,
that is literally my favorite credit of his on his filmography.
Yes.
Not because it's a good movie, just because it's really interesting that he worked on it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My point is that at a certain point, we know Disney was very much kind of outsourcing, kind of really spreading themselves, kind of in the different divisions like Touchstone and Pixar and
right
and so on and so forth. So
even
it's probably
Hollywood Pictures. You remember Hollywood Pictures?
Mm-hmm. So it's probably like we were kind of like sending our guys like a little bit over, and he probably found a nice kind of home at Pixar with Toy Story, and he just decided to stay there, and it worked out wonderfully for him because this guy was part of everyone's childhood, like the all-star lineup. Based pretty much of the original lineup from this to Up. He honestly he had a special thanks on Toy Story 3, but I don't know how involved he was in that. Outside, maybe it was like we wanted to capture the original look of the 2 Toy Story films, so we brought him back as a consultancy of sorts, like while he's busy with other stuff. I'm not sure. But the point being, Eggleston was, he was a production designer and an art director. So he was very much responsible for the look and kind of like this kind of the CG to kind of like basically how you realize a set in CG and kind of give it character and such, and how you can only make the look of an animated film look really good. Like I don't know, color palettes may have been his bag as well. I'm not sure. Like they had like the little kind of pastel kind of thing with Finding Nemo and such. So did essentially the Toy Story trilogy. Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, Ratatouille, Up, both Incredibles films. They also brought him back for the sequels, so Finding Dory as well, and of course up and such. I forget if I'm doubling up on these, but yes. The point being, he did the kind of classic lineup. Also, most memorably, he did direct something.
Yeah,
Directed
yeah.
a short. Directed For the Birds, which is one of the most lovely Pixar shorts they have.
It is one of the most iconic of the Pixar shorts. One of the Pixar shorts to win the Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's like the ultimate like feather in his cap, if you will.
Eggleston,
the blue feather in his cap.
it's like the hat that's made entirely of all the collected feathers from those birds. I tell you, man,
Right.
Eggleston, I'm always going to remember him for 2 reasons. One, he was on the Toy Story commentary when they had like that.
Oh
They got
yeah,
a
of
really
course.
the original Toy Story commentary is like a lineup. They did kind of that weird automated thing where they have like a lady who they kind of forget about at a certain point, like John Lasseter with Andrew Stanton, and then we like Ralph Eggleston. They're kind of shouting out the names like a little automated message
So
machine.
I'm gonna just. Was that one of the things where like they would play different clips from interviews and it wasn't like a full on conversation all the way through?
Well, that's the thing. It was hard to tell on that one. I
Uh-huh.
know all the subsequent ones got rid of that, so they weren't
Okay.
like the automated. But it sounds like they are talking to each other in the room because that's where
Hmm.
we get like the "we don't care." Like they are talking to each
Oh,
other.
okay, got it.
What
Yeah.
if I'm a betting man? What it probably is that you have like the core story, like John Lasseter and Andrew Stanton and so on. Like they're in a room, and then you have the producers in another room that are then patched together. If it's anything, like they are people in rooms together, but maybe not everyone in the same room.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's probably what it
It's
is for sure.
either there, there's really worried that kids at that time, like, they're not going to know who these people are. We got to tell them who they are.
Oh
There's a bunch of animation nerds in a room together. No one's going to know who they are.
God. And then meanwhile, 30 however many odd years later, the only people listening to those conversations, those commentary tracks are fellow animation nerds.
So the main thing I think we're all going to know him for at the end of the day is the moving van in Toy Story has it's called Eggman Movers, and that is a reference to Ralph Eggleston. So that's always like he always had like the most important part of Toy Story in that regard. Yeah.
Let's see. That guy says he's going down an Andy Kaufman rabbit hole. Many people don't give that guy enough credit for
Oh yeah.
how much influence he had on modern comedy, particularly on the internet. Yeah, Kaufman for sure. I know my main point of reference with Kaufman is that Jim Carrey documentary about his method acting on Man in the Moon. But for sure, I feel that I need to get more into it myself. Anyways, okay. So ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats, Dragon. I don't want to draw this out too long because honestly, a lot of other more knowledgeable people than us have already broke down the situation, but we got to address it. What the hell is going on at HBO Max, and what does it mean for animation on streaming services in general?
All right,
Dragon, you have the floor. Go ahead.
All right, so long story short, it's a train wreck over there at HBO Max right now. It's a suit. I don't know. We don't know the exact reason.
I can tell you this, Dragon. I've canceled my subscription. I don't know about you.
Well, you didn't really cancel. You botched up your subscription. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, but I'm not getting it back though.
Okay. Anyway.
All right. I'm sorry.
So
You're right. That doesn't quite have the same punch to it.
No. That was just from like random bouts of either idiocy or bad luck that kind of resulted in that one. I don't know. Regardless, the point is a train wreck over there at HBO Max. There's no real logic to what's going on. Like the word on the street is that it's like a tax write-off thing. Like back in the day, like when Disney films weren't performing, the theory was that they were botched intentionally so they could kind of write it off somehow. And in this case, it's like it's theorized that we're not releasing a film so we can kind of recoup the money, and we're not going to release the basically we're going to not make the original films that we made exclusive so they can be released otherwise, so we don't have to It seems like we're trying to nickel and dime everything between two seemingly struggling streaming services that are just.
Is it crazy that Bob Chapek of all people doesn't look as bad in comparison?
Listen, we have a new name, Tiki. So David Zaslav. So David Zaslav is the new.
Has entered the battle, Dragon. He is the new Smash challenger.
He is basically he's Chapek on steroids. Like Chapek
he really is. It's frightening.
Here's the
Like,
difference.
whoa, okay, Chapek, like you're still terrible, but you're not like fucking batshit crazy.
It's like Chapek he was kind of weakness when the company was transitioning and under the previous leadership. Chapek was just kind of like he was just trying to I'm good, right? I'm making the right choices. And then you
When
had
I think of Chapek, I literally just think of Pinhead Larry Dragon.
anyway, so
Who you
you
calling
have
Pinhead? Just like unassuming, just like, oh, I'm doing the best I can, guys.
so the point being, Chapek not really a menace to him, just more of kind of incompetence. On the flip side, though, David Zaslav, there's kind of a guy who's like
I think
money.
there's a straight up maliciousness to this guy. Just
He's
straight up.
he's the Tony J. We've got to have money.
Oh, absolutely.
Literally, I don't even know. I have
Absolutely.
no idea what this guy looks like, but I'm imagining him with a mustache. So the point being, Zaslav here,
He's just that guy, Dragon, just animated and everything. He's just that guy come out of the Roger Rabbit Toontown universe into our universe. He's that guy.
So suffice it to say, again, I'm not the accountant for HBO Max, so I don't know the ins and outs of his logic here. I don't know like if this whole tax write-off thing is true or not, or I mean, I have to assume it is because it's like the only bad logic that works in this thing. So the reason so you're probably wondering, well, what do you guys know? You're not businessmen. Well, man, I'll tell you this much: we had a Batgirl movie that was completed, and we're trying to pin it on bad test scores when you can't trust any test scores, and you always have bad test scores before you fix the movie. So it's kind of hard to tell. You had a full movie in the can that may have needed reshoots or re-editing or who knows what, and again, it's Batgirl. People are going to see that.
Were you looking forward to Scoob 2? No? Well, good, because you're not going to see it ever.
So it's for all intents and purposes, as far as we know. I mean, unless there's like some sort of legal loophole in the future, but essentially, Batgirl got Roger Corman Fantastic Four, which we had a completed
that's
film.
exactly what happened to it. It is exactly the new Roger Corman Fantastic Four. Yeah.
Yep. Only in this case, it seems like it was much more publicized that hey, we're making it. And so the word on the street is now they're doing like a funeral screening of it before it gets either vaulted or assumedly or as a cover story vaulted, actuality destroyed.
What does that entail? Does that entail like just people? Like I assume you have to get like a very special invite to it.
That's the thing. Apparently, I'm going to assume only the cast and crew were invited to it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure that's what the deal is. Like only a very select bunch are, but the public are not able to see it. Now the real question is, how stringent are they going to be on security here? Because that's getting bootlegged. That's the thing. Because that's the thing. It's probably like the Fantastic Four movie. It's probably going to be bootlegged at conventions or in the modern age we live in now. Probably upload online. But the question is, I wonder how strict they're going to be because they'd have to know they crapped the bed on this one. Like, just let them leak it. At least it'll get seen.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, we're all speculating here. Like, if the contracts, like this thing never sees the light of day so long as we're in business together. Ergo, you get your money back. That's how that works. So basically, the Batgirl movie is never to be seen by human eyes again, unless somebody, some brave hero, like the hero who leaked the Deadpool trailer, does something.
Dragon, it's being guarded by top men.
Yeah, that's like we know.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's really sad because I mean that we were gonna have Keaton Batman, they were gonna have J.K. Simmons returning as Gordon, we had like Brendan Fraser Firefly, and the bare minimum, I'm far more interested in a Batgirl movie than in the Batwoman show that tanked so hard. I know it's not the same thing, but it's saying like really we're gonna jump the Batwoman before we actually do the Batgirl.
Is like she is a big legacy character.
Yeah.
Like even the little I know about her from Batman the Animated Series, like she is a core part of the extended Bat family. She's an essential piece of that.
I mean, Batgirl is a great character. I mean, even before she gets even better when she becomes Oracle. But even before then, it's just like, hey, there's somebody who's just kind of like, here's your vigilante story inspired by Batman. She's like, so there you go. And that's a character who can carry her own movie. She doesn't even need Batman in it necessarily. Don't wrong. It's good that we have Batman in there, but it's like, okay, there's someone inspired by Batman.
Except if we're doing a certain thing with Batman that we should be doing with her.
Well, yes, but the point being,
I'll leave it at that.
The fact of the matter is, Batgirl has a very wide audience, and even for anyone who doesn't know Batman, even though I highly doubt there's anyone who doesn't know Batman 80 years into it, but it's like, hey, anyone who has a daughter out there is like, hey, Batgirl.
Wouldn't it be quaint if there was a daughter who grew up on Batgirl and then it blew her mind that it was spun off from Batman?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. So that's all. So that's just all terrible that's happening. You're wondering, basically, this week's been, how can things get worse with HBO Max?
Oh God.
So so again, we go from Batgirl to axing just all the original movies, like anything that was even like. Then they had some decent movies there, like the whole American Pickle thing with
American
Seth.
Pickle, yeah, gone.
Yep, that's gone. You had super intelligence, or super intelligence,
Gone.
and then there were other ones I don't care about as much.
Still
They're gone.
gone.
Yep, so all that's just gone, and it's so bizarre because like HBO Max, they kind of cycle through the movies. Yet you'd imagine, the original movies would stay there because unless you're in like a Disney Plus, like Marvel is kind of reclaiming what they own. There's no real purpose for getting rid of the originals.
Right.
And essentially, they've been then we're doing like a big old Thanos snap to the animation stuff.
Yeah, the animation stuff is where I'm just like, I will never subscribe to HBO Max again, as far as I'm concerned.
It makes me really concerned, especially going forward, because we don't know. I'm really terrified by. I have no idea what's going to happen when they do actually merge. Like, if I have a subscription to HBO, do I still keep that, or like do I like do it? Does it like carry over or what?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, are they even gonna? I feel like the brand name of HBO Max has been so sullied at this point that they might just want to start over.
This Discovery thing just seems like a bad idea from the get because no one even cares.
Which is ironic because a lot of the content from HBO Max was rolled into another failed streaming service and the DC Universe thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, HBO Max benefited from that though. They got a bunch of shows that actually they were able to kind of make better and make their own. So that was like the good side of that. But Discovery Plus is just like I think it's like they were getting the raw end of the bargain. No one wants Discovery Plus, and that's why they were desperate for HBO Max. Like, what are we gaining from this? There's nothing but terrible.
That guy said HBO Max went from the best streaming service to the worst in like a week. It's kind of impressive. Yeah, I feel the same way. I really was on board with HBO Max being the go-to, but now it's yeah.
Because again, you have essentially it was like the big competition with Disney Plus, and hey, here's all the DC stuff, and here's all the the DC stuff, the animation stuff. It's all here, and it's all cataloged, all nice for you, all purpley.
Right.
And it's now it's gone.
Dragon, at the end of the day, like I just can't imagine being someone who's like in the in the weeds of creating one of these animated shows and then just having it pulled. Like that must just be heartbreaking and frustrating on a level that I have personally never experienced.
My heart goes out to of course you're referring to specifically Owen Dennis, man. My heart goes out to Owen Dennis right now because Owen Dennis, already they canceled his show, but it was still on HBO Max, and now just completely, just so maliciously gone.
Yeah, I don't know what the internet not the internet. The internet loves Infinity Train.
Yeah.
What big corporations have against Infinity Train?
It just seems like not only did we cancel your show, we probably canceled it knowing full well, like at some point, yeah, we're just going to completely axe it because, it's like only the third season was, well, here's the thing. Infinity Train was planned for HBO Max from the beginning, but it ended up airing on Cartoon Network for like 2 seasons, and then it was exclusively on HBO Max. So again, they really, from the entirety, that show was always planned for HBO Max.
Uh-huh.
So it's ridiculous that they just treat it so harshly, and I absolutely agree with Owen Dennis just being really mad at HBO Max right now. He has every right to be, and I wonder if in the end of the day this might lead to a revival of Infinity Train on a different network. Of like there's a lot of chatter going on about Infinity Train right now. I don't know.
I mean, I would love that more than anything. I think, especially since Book 4 was, it wasn't bad, but it was more of a side story,
Still 3 really solid seasons leading up to that, though. I mean, you didn't really miss with any of those first 3 seasons.
Totally.
But yeah, it's that's the only silver lining I could see coming from that. And then you're thinking, how can things possibly get any worse? And this is the one that like completely gobsmacked me. This is where I'm yelling at Zaslav through his door. He's like, Zaslav, get out of here right now! Anyway, so Caped Crusader got axed from HBO Max. Now they're shopping it around right now. So basically, the Batman show
got to pick it up. That's too lucrative to not pick up from someone.
It is going to be the most ridiculous thing ever. If you're telling me a show like that, we saw a little bit of the they put this on T-shirts and posters and stuff. You mean to tell me you got a show in the style with the guy who at least gave you the look for Batman the Animated Series, again, who produced that and produced like essentially all of our childhoods with that. You have Matt Reeves, who's killing it right now in Batman. Then you have basically the name cachet with J.J. Abrams. But point being, the other two guys, they're working on this Cape Crusader show, and it's sure to be a hit. And essentially, the sell of this thing is like, here's what you didn't see in Batman the Animated Series. Not the same
Right.
universe, mind you, but it's like we never saw Batman's formative years. We never saw the year one era of Batman animation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was going to be noir, and the sensor's going to be a little lifted up. And here's the thing: it wasn't just those three guys. Again, while there was still no Dini, which irritates me, and I hope that perhaps he was intended to be on there. But regardless, you have like Greg Rucka, you have like other comic book writers and greats who were specialized in Batman who were involved in that thing, who really could have. Again, Greg Rucka is like the next best thing to a Paul Dini.
That guy says there's no way a Cape Crusader isn't getting picked up by someone. It's freaking Batman, guys.
Exactly. So I think smart. It's really between Hulu, which has Animaniacs, so there is a Warner Brothers precedent there. But mind you, Netflix does have a lot of Warner Brothers related things. Like
I think it would have a good home on Netflix.
I think so. And Netflix used to have like shows like The Batman on there, so like they had Batman on there previously, so it would not be entirely foreign territory. And right now, Netflix again, animation has been their specialty, even though they've now kind of shuttered the doors on animation. This would be the way of like, if we're going to open the doors, this is how you do it. Right. So, lastly, there's one thing you don't know. I don't think you know about yet. This is. I'm going to tell you something that's going to break your heart.
Oh God.
So there was this anthology show. It was going to be about the lesser-known DC characters, aside from Batman and Superman and such. And I don't know. No one really knows if it was anime. It sounds too good to be true to be live action, but I get the feeling it was supposed to be live action, if I'm being frank. It was called Strange Adventures. I don't know if Adam Strange was going to have an episode or be the framing device or what, the character. But the point being, Strange Adventures was like kind of like every episode, like 6 episodes, is going to be each episode is different, following a different low tier character in DC. And Kevin Smith was going to direct an episode.
Ooh.
And he wrote it too, and the episode was amazing. It was like the best thing Kevin Smith's ever written. It's
did you like read the script or what?
Like he basically, since it wasn't happening, he told everyone exactly what the episode was, and it was the most amazing thing you've ever heard.
Oh, okay.
I mean, long story short, essentially, it follows Jimmy Olsen and Perry White, and the actors he had hoped for to play these guys.
That's a really solid batch of characters for him to work with.
He was hoping to get John Goodman to play Perry White.
Oh, dude, forget about it. Oh, my God.
Now, he was initially planning for, because again, there was a hole in this because this guy's playing Blue Beetle, but the Miguel from Cobra Kai was supposed to be Jimmy Olsen.
I could see that.
But again, with the whole Blue Beetle thing, that one was never going to happen. But anyways, the point being, they go to the Bizarro world by accident, and they're stuck there, and they meet a Superman, and guess who they were hoping was going to play Superman?
I don't know.
Nick Cage.
Oh, perfect.
But again, it's Nick Cage revealed to be Bizarro Superman. And it was going to be this tragedy in which you have like Bizarro Superman who doesn't want to be the bad guy, but he thinks backwards, and it's just kind of like the tragedy. And it would end with him like meeting the real Superman and literally
using. Oh man,
Here's the thing, because they can't show Superman. You have Superman like right to like the edge of screen, like a red boots and cape and stuff, and he would be like saying like Stan, "Hello, my name's Kal-El. I hear you saved some people." He basically redeemed himself in the end by saving some people, and he says like, my friends called me. Then Bizarro cuts him off. Nick Cage's Bizarro Superman cuts him off, and he says, "Superman." He was gonna do the Iron Giant thing. He was literally gonna do the Iron Giant thing. Oh, I heard that. He's depressed me. So George R. Martin like contacted Kevin Smith. Oh, I love that episode idea, man. He was everyone. It was amazing. So yet another thing that was taken away from us. So this HBO Max thing sucks to the highest level.
Because apparently David Zaslav just thinks we can't have nice things.
Yep. That's it.
All right. I really don't know how much else we can add. Just Zaslav sucks.
Yeah, he does. He just plain sucks, man.
All right. But you know who doesn't suck?
Vince Gilligan.
Yes.
Complete opposite of suck.
Vince Gilligan doesn't suck.
No, not in the slightest. Seriously, oh my God! So Vince Gilligan obviously riding high right now with Better Call Saul having reached its end, and everyone talking about it. We already knew he got a contract like renewal with AMC AMC. So they basically he's teed up. We don't really have much to report on here. So we teed up that his next show is going to be kind of maybe. I don't know if anthology is the right word. He says it's going to be a little like the Twilight Zone. That's the main thing we have.
I'm hoping it's going to be more of like like, I hope there's going to be a running narrative through it, but maybe a bit more episodic in structure than something like Breaking Bad was.
That's my assumption. Here's the thing: I think Vince Gilligan's going to have the opportunity here to do something
Like,
like the X
obviously,
Files.
I feel like he is going back to his roots with the X-Files type stuff. I think that's obviously what he's trying to do here.
Yes, exactly, and it's going to be again. It's the thing. It was his bread and butter. And it kind of brought him to the TV fray, and it's going to kind of nice to see him go home again to a degree. But with what he's learned now from what he
Mhm.
had learned then. So yeah, just that's all we really know at this point. So just it says Twilight Zone esque. So I don't know if we're gonna have a narrator and everything, literally like the Twilight Zone, but probably I'm thinking episodic anthology sort of thing. Yeah.
I'm down. I'm down with whatever.
Okay, so then lastly, this is a recent announcement they just made. Well, sorry, not lastly, second before let. I just want to get this is some breaking news, like announced like either today or yesterday.
Uh-huh.
So the Wonder Man series, which again, it sounds like we haven't made. We're probably saving this for like the D23 to actually say Wonder Man when it's happening. But
Only a couple weeks away, Dragon. It's getting close. Less than
so,
a couple weeks away, I think.
so the Wonder Man
Next
series is
weekend,
happening.
I want to say.
So the Wonder Man series is happening. My hope is that Nathan Fillion's going to play him, but I think the fates are going to conspire against me and not have that happen. But we do know who's going to be in it, though. We know that Trevor Slattery is going to make a return in the show, which makes sense because Trevor Slattery is an actor, and Wonder Man, in his off hours, is traditionally an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to say about this Dragon. Honestly, at this point, I'm kind of getting some pretty bad MCU burnout. So I don't even know if this is going to be something I'll be checking out. But, Trevor Slattery is definitely a fun character. So at the very least, I'd probably be checking it out for him.
Yeah. All right.
So, it's a nice little spice to something that I otherwise would be less interested in.
Now, let's talk about something you're really interested in.
Yeah. Also, the horror themed Winnie the Pooh trailer came out. I don't really want to extendedly talk about it, Dragon, but it looks pretty bonkers. It honestly looks like one of those like parody like what if Mary Poppins was a horror movie. Anyways, so yes, Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Dragon, what do you think?
I think it looks good. Now, here's the thing: Weird Al Yankovic, he wrote this as well, and the idea, I believe, is he's kind of writing it almost like a parody song, a parody of a biopic. So essentially, it's going to be a little warped from his
That's
perspective.
absolutely what I'm hoping it's going to be for sure.
Well, that's the vibe I get from the trailer because I can't tell how much is. I mean, do you know anything about Weird Al Yankovic's life or anything? Do you?
I know that all the Madonna stuff is pretty fictionalized.
Okay, that's the thing. So that's what I'm saying.
I
Like a
also
lot of
know that he was a virgin until like his 40s.
Do you know if do you think the drug thing is like is based on anything at all, or?
It would surprise me if that was actually real.
So here's the
Because
vibe I
Weird
get.
Al Dragon. The thing about Weird Al is that the man is very, very straight laced.
So here's the thing. So this is what occurred to me after watching this trailer. I think Weird Al Yankovic, he probably heard about this and he kind of maybe got the light bulb from here in a good way. That the Pee Wee, the Pee Wee Herman movie, Pee Wee's Big Adventure way back in the day. The original plan for that movie was it was going to be kind of like a rise and fall success story in which Pee Wee Herman's going to go to Hollywood and it's going to be kind of like him getting wrapped up in all the bad stuff. And I'm thinking he's kind of going for that vibe with that original Pee Wee Herman concept. I think it's going to be the basically the biopic that we've seen so often, but applied to a very straight-laced character and throwing him in these situations and being silly with like the things that we've seen. Like, how do you revamp the celebrity biopic of like a rocker musician? Well, we make him a weird guy with an accordion, and we just play up the absurdity of it.
Yeah,
which seems fun.
I'm in for this for sure. I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a heavy hitter at the Oscars or anything. I don't think it's trying.
Oh no. I'd be astonished if they did though. But
I mean,
like Austin Butler versus Daniel
Radcliffe getting nominated. That's all I'm saying. Weirder things have happened.
Weirder things.
But yeah, Radcliffe himself, obviously like really odd casting, but I think it works, man. I think it works for this context.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it looks it looks like it fits very well, and yeah, it captures the vibe.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, so Dragon. Now on to the fun part of the thing. After all that drama, let's see. That guy also says I was sold on this movie since they cast Harry Potter as Weird Al. Also, all I want to do is add different lyrics to existing songs. So yeah, you should do that. Yeah, that right there, the whole all I want to do is add different lyrics to existing songs. That's got to be like that's definitely some self-parody in that line for sure.
Exactly. So again, I think it's setting the tone of the movie well. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how a wide audience is going to react to it, but I think I'm going to really enjoy it. You know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on,
Yeah.
Dragon. That guy does have some comments here I just want to acknowledge because they are good comments. So let me just run through a couple of them really quick. He says, I'm pro Nicolas Cage being in anything. You want him as OJ Simpson? A bit weird, but go for it. Sarcasm. I have been pitching Nicolas Cage returning to the MCU as Ghost Rider for a minute now, and I want that to happen pretty badly. Let's see. Vince Gilligan does another show, and it's a masterpiece again, then he is the most impressive TV writer of all time. That guy, I think he's already the most impressive TV writer of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not fair to say after Breaking Bad and Saul?
At the very least, showrunner. I mean, if anything,
yeah.
Because he's the first, like, you credit everybody, like, it's kind of a team effort, but he's the captain of the ship, man. He's like the best showrunner ever.
All right,
like
so
next
let's
to
go to
Norman
August
Lear.
2022 movies. And by the way, Carlton Hughes heard that, and he's shedding a single tear right now, Dragon.
Well, we're going to talk about him later.
I thought I was the best showrunner ever previously on Bates Motel.
Nah, Q's never, look, we love Q's, but he never stood a prayer against Vince Gilligan.
Oh, I know.
Let's be honest.
Okay, so Dragon, tell me about Bullet Train.
Yeah, so Bullet Train. It's so this is the David Leitch. This is the David Leitch movie. It's an action movie. It's he's always had a specialty for it. He's the director on Deadpool 2. He was the co-director on the John Wick, and he did the Hobbs and Shaw movie. So he hasn't had, it's like his fifth movie ever, I think. But I tell you, man, he's really carving out a niche for himself. I recall he was a stunt guy turned director, which is kind of like how the John Wick movies were made. This so again, he's really building a niche of like action movies that incorporate really good humor. This film has an excellent cast. I mean, Brad Pitt is so fun, Tiki. You would love this movie. I really wish you saw this movie because it was a great time. It was.
I still have time to go see it, so I might. You know what I might do is I might use it as my National Movie Theater Day movie.
Huh. Hey, when is that?
Saturday.
So how does that work?
What?
How does that work? The National Movie Theater Day?
As far as I know, it's just all movies at participating theaters are like $3.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I might do with Bullet Train because I have been meaning to see it. There's just been other things that have taken precedent over it.
But long story short, again, Brad Pitt, he's just so fun. I mean, this movie is very much, I think the reason I enjoyed it on some level so much is that it feels like a Deadpool story from the comics. It really does. It just feels like
that makes sense.
Almost like a Gail Simone, like Deadpool comic, which I love the Gail Simone run. It just feels very straightforward. Deadpool, in this case, Brad Pitt, he's on, he has a job. Make sure he gets that briefcase. Get the briefcase and make sure no one takes it. That's all he's got to do. Mm-hmm. It's very straightforward in that regard. I'll admit the only downside of the movie, it's not a bad. It's not a thing that gets in the way of anything good at all. It's just like the inciting incident that relates around the briefcase. It's like it's okay. It's nothing really spectacular. It's just it's kind of action movie fodder in that regard, but it doesn't really get in the way of anything. It's like, and this is like the reason the briefcase is on the train. But everything else, I'll tell you, a lot of the cast do really good jobs. I think you're really going to like it because usually you don't care for this guy. I think you're going to like Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie.
He does seem pretty entertaining in the trailers. I'll give him that. I
think you've liked him in some things. I think you might really like him in this because you have this. Also, he and Brian Tyree Henry, they play brothers in the movie, and it's really great.
They play brothers? That sounds delightful.
It is. That's like Brian Tyree Henry is going to be is like the best. He's like the MVP who stole the movie. My God, he's just so good.
That is good to know because he was definitely the standout from the trailer as well. So it's good to know he's in a lot of it.
So he's like in the theater. You can hear him being like the fan favorite of the audience. They love Brian Tyree Henry, cool. And I believe he's they have names. I believe there's one's called. They have code names. It's Lemon and Tangerine. I think that the other one's lemon. Anyways, point being, so it's very much like imagine Deadpool meets Bad Times at the El Royale, but on a train.
That's a pretty good sell.
Yeah, so I can't wait to rewatch this, man. It was a
So you
lot of
think it
fun.
has Bad Times at the El Royale kind of upside?
I personally think so. Again, the reason for the briefcase, it's a little been there, done that, but everything else quite fantastic.
Cool, nice.
All right.
All right, so I checked out the latest A24 horror movie, Bodies.
Very creative title.
This is
Hard to remember.
this is not everyone's cup of tea, to be sure. It is very much a parody of the TikTok generation, as I call them. And Dragon, first of all, it's very weird to be seeing a movie about the generation that came after me. But suffice to say, I really like this. And to me, it actually has a little bit more in common with something like Knives Out than it does a standard slasher movie. Just because it really is just kind of like a take on the who done it, if anything else. I don't want to give away a lot of the twists, but there is, like, the movie does have this vibe to it where it goes a million miles an hour as far as like the different things that unfold and ultimately with the mystery and who the killer is and the end point. I thought it was really, really entertaining, really well executed. Let's see. So some of the standouts here: Maria Bakalova is she's back from being Borat's daughter in the second Borat movie. She's great. Amanda Stenberg is the other lead. She's also good. She was in Dear Evan Hansen, but she's better in this than she was in that. And the movie has a lot of really biting social satire, especially around how. From what I heard, it's kind of like Scream for the TikTok generation. Is that accurate? Yeah, I would say that's very accurate, that guy. There's like an extended sequence of, there's like 3 characters left at that point in the movie, and they're all just like accusing each other and throwing shade at one another. But then there's like political satire that gets thrown into it. It's all very, very, very entertaining. I very well shot. A lot of it is shot just using natural darkness and black lights and stuff like that, like the glow sticks that you see the characters have in the on the poster. That's actually how a lot of the movie is lit, and yet it never comes off like too dark, which is pretty impressive in its own right. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it for sure. I certainly don't think it's the best A24 movie of the year or anything. But I definitely had a good time with it, and I thought it wasn't necessarily elevated horror like a lot of other A24 is, but it was a very, very good, sharp little satire that I quite enjoyed.
That's nice.
All right. So Samaritan Dragon, I'm on the fence. Talk me into it. Should I watch it?
Tiki, recently you've been kind of going on about the whole, the superhero burnout thing for you, and I don't know. This may be the kind of the spoonful of sugar for you, man. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's why I'm on the fence, man. Because I do kind of like the concept, but just superheroes in general, I'm just kind of eh.
Did you ever watch the movie Defendor with Woody Harrelson? With Woody Harrelson.
Can't say I did. No.
Yeah, so essentially it's like one of those off the beaten path, like kind of more of an indie kind of thing, but it was like a well produced indie. It was very much like a one and done, like there's no sequels or anything. It was just kind of like a superhero film, but like about a vigilante superhero. Woody Harrelson played, but he played a mentally challenged hero. And I'm not saying this is the same thing. I'm just saying in terms of like a disconnected, like singular, like it's not a big studio movie. It's not like based on a comic or anything. It's just kind of like something in tribute to the superhero and what they stand for. So this is kind of like that. It's indicative of that. It's it's very grounded. It's very kind of refreshing in that sense. Now, I'm not going to say this is the best thing ever. I will say it is. If you want a change of pace and you want to see something kind of nice and simple, this might be for you. It's a street level one shot superhero story. And again, it's a nice throwback to, before we could do everything with superheroes and we kind of did everything with superheroes, kind of a throwback to the time we were kind of like struggling to get stuff on screen and this is what it might look like. This is like, I'll tell you one thing, man, there is an excellent twist in this movie.
Hmm.
There's a really good twist that you really I didn't see coming. You probably will see coming. I don't know, but yeah, it boils down to ultimately the influences of superheroes, but almost as folk heroes in a realistic kind of neighborhood. Where the where basically Stallone, he's a former superhero with a secret, and again, like there's stuff that kind of gets revealed later about like why he retired, and it's interesting. And he basically saves this kid who he kind of befriends, and it kind of like we kind of peel back the layers of this guy a little piece by piece. Like we don't fully get into it, and he's kind of keeping things tight and for a good reason. And yes, Stallone I think is the best part of this movie. Like he's excellent. He's playing a kind of as a close to the best kind of like loner, kind of befriending this kid. And basically, the worst thing I'd say about this movie is the bad guy is a little weak sauce, and it's just kind of like you're kind of like twiddling your thumbs till you get to the climax with the stuff in relation to the bad guy. You're there for Stallone, I think, and that's the thing. The twist really ultimately for me saves the movie. I think the twist really makes it interesting, especially if you were to rewatch it. Kind of recontextualizes things, and it ends really nicely. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice change of pace, but it's not the greatest thing ever. I mean, I'm not going to say like the reviews are. There probably could be higher on it, but it was maybe being the nice guy that I am, I'd probably give like a 75. I don't know,
Okay.
70, 75. But I think it was not good, not as good as Defendor, but it was nice.
Cool. Okay, so let's see. I saw the new Patton Oswald vehicle, Dragon. I saw the description for this thing, and you know me, I went nuts for it. It's called I Love You, Dad. Or, I'm sorry, I Love My Dad. You put
Oh,
I Love You, Dad. It's called
well,
I Love My Dad.
could have sworn that's what you told me, but all right.
So Dragon, elevator pitch for this. A father is estranged from his son, Dragon, and he wants to reconnect with his son, and he hatches a plan to do so. And that wayward plan essentially involves inadvertently catfishing his son. And shenanigans ensue. This is essentially a sitcom of a movie. It's literally a situation comedy. A lot of awkward kind of mischief ensues based on the premise. They riff on the premise. Dragon, this is like this is like the textbook definition of a 7 out of 10 concept comedy. Like it does what it does well. There's nothing mind blowing about it. If anything, I think given how out there and potentially crude the premise is, I think maybe it tries a little bit too much to pull on the heartstrings for what it's also trying to do in the cringe department. But I thought this was a pretty good time. I could absolutely see this being a good watch if it drops on Netflix or Prime or whatever, which I'm sure it probably will at some point. So, and obviously Patton's really good in it. I mean, Patton's great in everything, but
Yeah.
in particular here, you can really feel kind of like his nervous, awkward energy. You know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of gave me a vibe of World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams a little bit.
Oh yeah, I can with a title
Mhm.
like this, I can kind of see that.
Totally. So I mean, again, Dragon, it's kind of like I'm kind of where you're at with Samaritan. Like, not a super strong recommendation, but it was nice to support Patton when this movie really did kind of bomb. So I'm glad that I was one of the few people to actually see it in theaters. And it was a fun time. It was a fun time. It was a nice afternoon. It's probably not going to be on my top 10 or anything, but I'm glad I saw it.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Oh,
yeah, it sounds does sound rather interesting. So I love when Patton Oswalt does things, and I usually see him kind of as a bit player and things, but having him as a starring role, it
no,
does
this
sound
is all
interesting.
Patton. This is all Patton all the time. Yeah,
So would you recommend this, or you just think like
I would
think I'd like
recommend
this?
it. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, it's not like a strong, like this movie will blow your mind kind of recommend, but I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
so
Let me.
Dragon, is Lassiter out of luck?
All right. Let's not rip off everything from our competition. Thank you.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was
So,
fun.
Let me tell you about Luck. So, of course, Luck for the kids out there. Luck is Skydance. Essentially, Skydance is trying to, it seems, give the Disney animation talent, kind of a new playground. They kind of try to lure them away at times. It's been it's been happening with the streaming services as well, like between Netflix and Apple TV Plus, because we had like Over the Moon and Sea Beast for Glenn Keane and Chris Williams, and you're giving these animators like places to go and to play.
I do know that Brad Bird has a movie lined up with Skydance, right?
Yes, he does with a ray gun, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm
Now
eager to
that
find out
is going to be a Skydance movie. I'm not going to skip. I assure you.
Yeah, I really just I'm dying to know if it's going to be 2D or 3D animated. That's what I'm dying to know.
Oh man, I really hope it's 2D. Can you imagine another Brad Bird 2D?
I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath, but I want it so badly.
I know, but that would be tantalizing. It's a tantalizing prospect.
So this is the first animated film that Skydance is doing now. They broadened into their animation division. They got John Lasseter overseeing it, as the head of the company, and they have another. So again, it seems like we're kind of taking the lesser known Disney talent. We're getting them like Peggy Holmes directed this. She had done the Little Mermaid directed video. I forget. I know the Little Mermaid. Some of the directed videos had found an audience. Like the third, I think some of the one. I don't know if it was the third Cinderella or what, but like one of those did really well, and then you have I forget how Little Mermaid
3 is widely regarded to be the best of the bunch.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I don't know how the first Little Mermaid, like the prequel one, did.
I don't think I'll be honest with you. I don't think either of the Little Mermaid, even the prequel or the sequel, did very well.
I know the sequel didn't do well, but yeah.
I don't think the prequel did well either.
All right. Well, regardless,
the point being, it's probably a situation where it's probably like slightly better than Return to the Sea, but still like not held up in very high regard.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So the director is actually she was a choreographer in like all the Disney movies. That was the weird thing. So she kind of broadened into like the direct-to-video stuff in terms of her directing kind of style. Anyway, so she was put on this, and again, so this is kind of on Apple TV Plus. They're trying to kind of build their own like the animation. This is the first time they've really done something animated beyond the Peanuts, which they have done excellently with the Peanuts, by the way. It's like the best thing they have on there. Well, that and Ted Lasso. Amongst they have like a number of great shows, but they've been doing right by the Peanuts when I thought that was like going to crash and burn. So I've been happy with them on that front, regardless. So Luck itself. I think Luck really excels in Act 1. I really do. I think it really sold me in terms of I was going to this movie not sure what I was going to find, just kind of went into like, I'm hoping for the best given the names that are attached. It has a good story at its heart. Act 1 is a really good sell with kind of a little bit of like a hint of Pixar DNA to it, in which you have this girl. You have a really good protagonist. You got this 18-year-old girl named Sam. She's got bad luck, and it's basically we didn't just do the whole like, oh, ha ha ha, bad luck, misfortune, crappy CG from the like one of those movies that you've seen, like that Pinocchio movie you told me about, like stuff like that. It's like, okay, just we're laughing at the misfortune of a character who has bad luck.
But Father, when can I go on my own?
So that is not the case here. I was very elated by it because one, the animation obviously is good, but beyond that, it's like you have this. You see the true
animation really that good though, because it doesn't look great from what I've seen of it.
Well, I mean, I'm saying compared to the competition, it's like I don't know. I'm saying it's for the first go. I think it's good animation. I don't know.
Does it look better than made for TV?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it does looks feature quality. I'd say.
Uh-huh.
I mean, is that a Pixar film? No. Is it better than
the
Sea
Beast?
I'm not
expecting it to be Pixar level, but
I wouldn't say it's better than the Sea Beast if you're asking me that. So if you're looking in terms of that, but regardless, it's
would you say it's better than the Sea Beast?
No, wouldn't. That's the thing. It's not better than. Then again, it's a really different movie. So we're at sea and everything has like a big design. So
yeah, because I was going to say the Sea Beast is a pretty well animated movie.
That's what I'm saying. That regardless. Point being, I'm really endeared to this main character because you see the consequences of bad luck in a way you've never thought about before. Like, you're not laughing at the misfortune of a character with bad luck. This is a character who, hey, if she's had bad luck from birth, well, she's an orphan. And she's raised in like foster care, essentially, like a group home. And no one, because of her bad luck, no one ever adopted her. So she reaches the age of 18, she's out on her own. And it's a thing you've never seen before. Like, okay, she's aged out of the system, and now she's on her own, quite lonely. And again, it's like life is not treating her that well. And you feel for this character in a way that really kind of touched me in kind of a Pixar sense. And then you have like a lot of fun world building. You go to the land of luck. The idea that all the good luck in the world comes from one singular place that she kind of this lady with bad luck ends up at, kind of chasing some good luck. So again, all that's Act One. All that's really strong for me, and all that's really clever. And there's a lot of good luck logic and gags of like, okay, well here, like all the on the Chinese zodiac, the animals that bring good luck are there. And you have anthropomorphic animals in places, and they're there for that reason. Then I want to be clear. This is not a bad movie at all, but I think after Act One, it then becomes kind of by the numbers in terms of, it's like, okay, Amber's going on an adventure, and we've kind of seen this fair before, but it looks nice. And then we get to Act Three, which is it's an extended third act of why isn't the movie ending faster than it should be.
Right.
So it starts good, and then it gets kind of standard but not bad. But as a first outing of your animated of like your first animated feature for like a new division you're building, it's like, it could have been a lot worse. It's not like you could have had a bad movie and it was like, it's fine. One thing to highlight though, I wanted to tell you about. So John Ratzenberger is in the movie.
I've heard about this, yeah.
And you'd love what he does in this movie. He plays a character who runs a tiki bar.
Okay, that's amazing.
In like so it's kind of like in a sense
so right up my alley. It's like that was like made for me.
It's like a bad luck tiki bar too, which is really funny.
Oh my god, that's equally amazing. That's
and it's like
for a tiki bar.
That's the thing. There's like this hilarious little. So it's kind of in a sense, it's like Cliff from Cheers got to be Sam Malone.
Oh my god, dude! Oh my god.
So it's kind of like he's like, what if Cliff ran Cheers? That's kind of what.
No, what if Cliff from Cheers just retired in Hawaii and ran a tiki bar?
Yeah, so that's like he runs a tiki bar, and there's like one little corner of good luck. There's like the one good luck thing in the bar. It's like everyone's gonna draw into, and then otherwise, it's really funny. So I think that's in like the third act. So they have like peaks and valleys within when it's just becoming standards. Like okay, and then there's Fula Borg, like a unicorn with a mustache. That's kind of funny. So I think the movie has its charm, man. It's like I don't know, it's worth watching, but not like if you have to pick over other things. I don't know if I'd say like eagerly jump to it, But if you happen upon it, it's like I should watch Luck.
I could picture it being like a flight movie for me at some point.
Well, that's a question how you'd be able to access it, but sure.
Well, I can picture it being like on an airplane, like on a list of flight movies. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, sure.
That's how I watched the Angry Birds 2.
All right.
And the classic The House with Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler. Do you remember The House?
Yeah, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah, that's the one with it's Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler in which they had the casino in their house.
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly. Yes.
Like Will Ferrell's wearing like some red jacket on the poster or something.
I watched that movie on a plane. All right, anyways.
Yeah.
But you know what movie I did not watch on a plane, Dragon?
What?
3,000 Years of Longing.
Yeah, so this one looked interesting, and you were really hyped on this one. Like, tell me what the
okay. The thing I need to start off with this movie right off the bat. This is like nothing like Fury Road. This movie absolutely just demonstrates how George Miller is an eclectic as hell director. Dragon, essentially my elevator pitch for this movie it's like 25% Sandman, 75% My Dinner with Andre. The stuff with Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba in the hotel room, just having the conversation, that is honestly most of the movie. And then the other part, the Sandman kind of part, is just Idris Elba kind of regaling Tilda Swinton with the stories of his life and how he ended up in the bottle in his predicament, and that's the 10,000 Years of Longing part of the movie. So in that regard, it's very much not what you would expect, and I can't see a lot of people vibing with it. I personally liked it because I grew up. I went to the creative writing scene in high school, and this movie does have some creative writing discussion in it. So I could vibe on it. I could vibe with it on that level. It's absolutely not a masterpiece like Fury Road, and not even saying that as far as like, I'd be totally down for something that's not an action movie for sure. But this is just, I don't know. It's very, very inaccessible. It feels like it feels like a thought experiment of a movie that is like almost kind of like a vanity project by George Miller. Like, I still enjoyed it. I'm still glad I saw it. But yeah, it's probably not going to end up anywhere near a top 10 or a top 20 of the year for me. Obviously, nowhere near the peak of his filmography with stuff like Fury Road, or even, I wouldn't even say this reaches the peak of something like Babe Pig in the City. But Idris Elba's still very good in it. There's some really good production design. Tilda Swinton always delivers. So, there is some good stuff, especially in the Sandman style morality tales that the genie tells. But that stuff just takes up so little of the movie, and the conversation stuff is good, but it's also just kind of like, it almost kind of feels like a bait and switch. So I absolutely think this movie suffered from like a bad marketing campaign, but by the same time, I don't necessarily know how you would market a movie like this. It's a very unconventional film, just in its very structure. So yeah, Dragon, I don't know. I got to admit, buddy, like for you personally, I can't see you really gravitating towards this thing.
So Idris Elba essentially is a genie. It's a no go.
Yes.
Hmm.
Like I said, I liked it, but I can't see someone like you who's more in tune with like the franchisee side of stuff. Like I can't see. It's just a little too art house for your taste, I would think.
I'm saying even it being art house, it didn't grab you.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like I was fixated on it at all.
Can you remind me? Did you ever get around to watching Brigsby Bear?
No, I haven't.
Okay, just wanted because I remember telling you all about that. I don't think
I know. I need to get around to it. I know.
All right, just curious. All right. So that brings us to Running with the Devil, the wild world of John McPhee or McAfee.
It's McAfee.
Yeah, McAfee. Yeah, it's the
So Dragon, I have seen so many YouTube video essays about this guy that I just frankly did not feel the need to watch this, because I like, this guy's life is so crazy that I've kind of already done like a whole rabbit hole on him.
I think you should look into this, Tiki. This is like Netflix doing a documentary that really turned out really well. This is like Netflix documentary making at its finest. It's so
Look,
essentially
I'm sure it's good, but I'm saying there's I believe like either Hulu or like HBO Max, or like they've already put out a McAfee documentary. It's well trodden territory here.
I didn't know that they did that.
It's not something that I wouldn't already know all the details of. You know what I mean?
All right, fine, but I'll tell you, for me, mind you, I've not seen any of the other stuff. I had no idea about this guy at all until this thing.
If you don't know about this guy at all, then yeah, I'm sure getting it told to you in like a Netflix format is great. Yeah, for sure.
Here's the one thing that may sell you potentially is that, again, it's from the perspective of the documentary film crew who are our characters in the movie. So it's basically like the best way I could sum this up. Obviously, you know who the guy is, so I don't really need to sell you on this, but for, I guess, anyone watching, it's basically, what if Tommy Wiseau were a tech mogul on the run, and along with his documentary crew that had to come with him?
Mm-hmm.
So that's essentially what this movie is. It's kind of very much, it's almost like kind of Hearts of Darkness, kind of it's a little bit like that in terms of there's kind of a creepy element to it where it's like it's this guy is dangerous, possibly a paranoid one percenter. He flees the U.S. because he's accused of murder, and he's paranoid. The cartel's after him, so he has guns, and he's bringing for protection.
Yeah, no, all this stuff I know. All this stuff I know.
If they did a biopic of this guy, I'm thinking Jeremy Irons. What about you? No.
Honestly, I'm a Rockwell guy with biopics.
Really?
Yeah, what do you think of Rockwell?
I mean, sure. I mean, Rockwell's good for anything. I don't know. I just thought with kind of like kind of the accent and the kind of the look. I mean, especially with the look. I mean, Jeremy Irons might be tailored for this guy.
Say Jeremy Irons might be too old at this point, though.
The thing, look at this guy, though. This guy's looking rough for whatever age he is.
That's fair.
It's a thing. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the guy looks like kind of like Al Pacino today or Jeremy Irons.
You're right.
regardless, I don't know. Basically, the big sell of this movie is that you fear for the crew's life at so many points during this documentary because they get like left behind when the cartels, well, by authorities and cartels are possibly after them, and it's like I don't know, it's kind of like a gripping adventure into like weird stuff. It's like there's like a really eerie element when you're like alone with this guy and you're like the poor guy behind the camera. Like, you kind of feel it. It's kind of found.
I could see that tension.
It's basically it's basically this from a found footage perspective. That's kind of what it feels like. So that's the really interesting. And then, of course, the doc you cut back with these guys talking about what was going through their minds during this. But I don't know, that was really kind of cool.
Sure,
that was really well put together with that format in mind.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, Orphan First Kill. This was a day and date release on Paramount Plus. I have never seen the original Orphan movie, coincidentally enough, but I enjoyed this. Essentially, Dragon, this is kind of Baby Doll in the form of a horror movie.
You mean from Batman Animated Series?
Yes.
Okay.
So essentially, the idea is that this woman essentially has the baby doll disease, right? Where she appears to be a little kid, even though she's like 30 years old.
Yeah.
So she decides to do the thing that other con artists have done. Like, this is a thing that it feels like it could have been based on something, where the person will go in and they'll try to appear to be the lost child.
Sure.
So yeah, she infiltrates herself into the family. But Dragon, then things get twisted about halfway through. About halfway through, the movie takes a dark turn, and the wife realizes that that things are not as they appear. But the thing is, it gets twisted. So the baby doll-esque character has taken a real liking to the husband. And the husband is very much liking spending time with the baby doll-esque character because, obviously he thinks that she is his long-lost daughter, and he's kind of like given her, she's given him basically like this new spark for life, and he's a painter, and he's like, he's making all these new paintings. So essentially, the wife is like, I know that you are a con, but you're not going to leave here because it is making my husband would be depressed if you weren't around. So essentially, Dragon, it all becomes like this big, messy triangle of what I really like about it is that both the wife and the baby doll style character are equally unlikable. And the wife very much becomes a villain in her own right by the end of the movie. And that palatable tension is really, really good. I don't necessarily think it's A+ horror by any means, but I would say it's a solid B. And it was a good watch. So yeah. Let's see. That guy has a comment about it. He says the first Orphan movie is pretty good. I haven't had a chance to see the prequel yet. Definitely going to watch it at some point. Yeah, I mean, like I said, as someone who hasn't seen the original Orphan movie, or maybe I have at some point, but I don't remember it. I thought this movie held up on its own right. It's like a really good kind of cat and mouse con artist getting caught kind of movie. So it's not even really a horror movie per se. I mean, it's more of a horror movie than something like Beast that we'll get to. But it's like I said, it's more of just kind of like a cat and mouse, sort of like the con artist gets conned kind of movie. So it's more about suspense than anything else. But there are some twisted parts to it for sure. All right, what's next on your end, Dragon?
Well, let's see. Oh yeah. Oh god.
Oh god.
Yeah. So I tried to. Okay, so with I believe that sorry, I remember. Did you? Yeah, you added something at the end with Beast. I recall. So sorry, you because a movie was added, I tried to squeeze in an extra movie today.
Okay.
And I was between two options, and I was about to put on Day Shift to finish that, but then I was like, as I was about to do that, a Kevin Hart movie popped up called Me Time. And I figured, I really liked the last movie that Kevin Hart did on Netflix, The Man from Toronto.
That was a good one.
So
that was like the one Netflix mediocre action movie that I've actually had a fun time with.
Yeah, and Patrick Hughes, who did the Hitman's Bodyguard, did that. So it's very much like that guy it's like he knows what he's making, and he kind of makes it. He makes it.
He's got a. I don't want to say he has a style, but he has a flair to what he does.
That's the thing I like. It's kind of I can't. Yeah, I like his style in terms of how that guy just kind of approaches making a movie. Like, I'm just kind of fun with it. It's very casual. Like, let's just do some cool action stuff and just kind of let you kind of have some laughs along the way. It's really kind of a nice, kind of palsy way of making an action movie. Now, so again, I'm thinking that, like, oh man, I really, that, and I rewatched like the True Story thing that Kevin Hart did. It's like, man, I really like
that was really good. Yeah.
I think so. It's like in general, I was in I've been kind of tapering off from the Kevin Hart.
You haven't seen True Story with Kevin Hart. I don't know why that didn't get more attention. That was damn riveting.
It was absolutely riveting. I mean, my God, it was one of the best things I've ever seen him in, that True Story thing. Just I love the idea of Kevin Hart doing drama, and so rarely happens, like a unicorn setting. He's like, oh God, look at him right there, looking at being all dramatic. I love it. so basically,
that was like such a step up from something like the Bryan Cranston movie he did.
Why would come on? Yes, it is
that movie.
Look, I like the upside, but you're right, though. True Story does exceed the upside. Yes, my point. My point is, so I'm going with like kind of nice. Kevin Hart's been really charming me lately. That doesn't excuse everything he does. Like, for example, I think it's a mistake to put him in the Super Pets movie, which I have not seen, mainly because Kevin Hart is in that as Ace the Bat Hound, which I think is like the dumbest casting in the world, which is why I did not see that movie. Like, giving Ace the Bat Hound superpowers, but sorry, I digress. My point is, I was thinking good vibes on Kevin Hart because I like Kevin Hart movies traditionally. Even the not so good ones, like, Kevin Hart's good in it. So I did not check the Rotten Tomatoes on this film, and see, so rarely do I like to subscribe to the Rotten Tomatoes thing, but in this case, I really wish I did. I really wish I looked at it in advance, because Me Time was terrible. I mean, really bad. This was really bad, man. There's no The Man from Toronto, not at all. I just... Yeah, that's the thing. So basically, Kevin Hart. I mean, the idea, very simply, it's Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg. I like Mark Wahlberg during comedy. That was like a big sell for. Oh my God, it's him, Mark Wahlberg. I love Mark Wahlberg when he does comedy. This is like a marriage made in heaven. What could possibly go wrong? And everything went so wrong, Tiki. It was just. I mean, the premises seems really okay. It's kind of like that Rel movie that we had. It's a little bit like the Rel movie that was on, I believe it was on Hulu, where, it's like him and John Cena kind of palling around. It's a buddy movie. What could go wrong? It's like, so Kevin Hart is lifelong buddies with Mark Wahlberg, and the idea is like they celebrate Mark Wahlberg's birthday every year, and like they do kind of crazy things, and that's kind of the running gag, and they kind of split up when he had a family and everything, so they don't see each other as often. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna take the kids and kind of visit the grandparents. Why don't you have like kind of some me time? 'Cause you're a little stressed out, buddy. He says, okay, and I love Kevin Hart doing like the Lonely Man stuff, like before he reunites with Mark Wahlberg, because it's like he goes to like a golf course, and he's like, it's like he's pigging out on the buffet, and he's golfing with little old ladies. It's like, I don't know, it's like a lot of like that. To me, is really funny, just seeing Kevin Hart kind of in a pathetic situation. Just being alone and being very kind of miserable, but putting on a happy face. We do have some gross out humor I'm not crazy about throughout the movie. I'll say that already was like kind of a bad omen. Like, oh man, we're really going for like the poo jokes, and he's like throwing up. At least The Man in Toronto is a throw up gag. It was really hilarious though.
yeah.
But that was not a good omen in a sense. It's okay. So he's hanging out Mark Wahlberg, and then essentially you're kind of realizing, man, we have no story here. Yet again, a signature of these Kevin Hart movies, unfortunately, even the good ones, is that there's always like, oh, worry about disappointing the wife. There's always a satiating the wife story in there somewhere. Like, oh God, is my
it is part of his repertoire for sure.
And I'm thinking that's autobiographical. I'm thinking Kevin Hart fundamentally is afraid, is still apologizing to his wife in all these movies. That's what I think it really is, if I'm being frank. And yeah, it's a lot of it just really, the writing is it just sucks, man. The writing sucks on this. It's just the most fill in the blanks kind of movie plot you've ever seen in your life. It's just by the numbers, fill in the blank. Like, okay, so third act breakup, he ticks everyone off. There's a house party, and yeah, Kevin Hart just basically it feels like Kevin Hart's paying the bills with a Netflix movie. That's what it feels like with Netflix money. That's all this movie feels like. And after seeing True Story, you kind of see behind the curtain a little bit, even though it's kind of it's obviously it's an extension of things. It feels like, yeah, sometimes Kevin Hart's just going to do a thing just to pay the bills. And this is one of those examples.
All right.
So not good. I would not recommend this at all. Steer clear of it. Run the other way.
Okay, so I've just got the last two, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, so first off, we have Emily the Criminal. This is a Sundance movie, I believe, that just got wide released. With Aubrey Plaza in the lead role, and she's really good. I wouldn't say she's quite as good as something like what's the
give me something here.
I'm sorry. It's the one where she plays like the influencer. It's fine. I'll think of it. But anyways, so this isn't like necessarily the best Aubrey Plaza performance I've seen, but it's pretty good. And essentially this whole thing is just all about kind of like petty theft and what that can lead to and how it can be addicting and how it can ruin your life and the cycle of that. So what you're saying is this movie isn't going to be one of the most memorable comedy movies of our time, Dragon?
No, heavens, no.
I don't know. I just think with Emily the Criminal, I just think this movie is very much like, to me, like, I think other people in my film circles have rated it a little bit higher than I have. I thought it was like about a 6 out of 10. For me, I thought the big thing that kind of like went off the rails with this one just a little bit was the romance element of it. Just took up a bit too much of the screen time. At a certain point, it was just her and this guy, and I wanted to see more about the actual crime end of things, and it just wasn't necessarily giving me that. Ingrid Goes West. She was fantastic in that. That is still, I think, by far the best performance I've seen from Aubrey Plaza. She's good here. It just didn't really knock my socks off. I don't know, Dragon. It's just I don't. It's just kind of a pretty standard movie of like, oh, we really Dragon. Essentially, the best way I can describe the romance is it's like Slipping Kimmy in super fast forward, where it's like 2 hours of like, oh, we're really good for each other, and I really like pulling off these heists for you, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. But oh no, look at the cost. We shouldn't be together, but we still have fond memories of each other at the end. Dragon, I swear to God, that's the movie. And it's very unsatisfying. I get that people like it just because of Aubrey Plaza, but I don't know. To me, the actual like forward momentum of the plot just wasn't there. So I'm not saying this was bad, but I'm saying it was one of those movies where after a while I was kind of checking my watch. Like it really didn't keep me engaged. So yeah, not a high recommendation on my end. And as you guys can tell, some of these August movies, August not particularly the best year.
One could say August Rush, not so much.
Right. Okay, and then finally we land on Beast. Dragon, this is the Idris Elba Lion movie.
Yes, yeah, this is I saw the trailer for this in the theater. I forget it was for the Elvis movie or for oh no, actually no, it was for Bullet Train. That's where I saw the trailer.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Dragon, I actually had a really fun time with Beast.
Really?
It's not a perfect movie by any stretch. The CG is pretty good in some spots. In some spots, it's pretty wonky. I think some of the action is a little bit repetitive. There's a couple really ridiculous points where Idris Elba is literally just kicking the lion in the face, and it just kind of verges into so bad it's good territory.
I gotta be honest, it does sound. I was wondering if you were gonna tell me he was gonna punch the lion, but I just love the idea of like him kicking the crap out of this monster.
Oh, he does kick the crap out of the lion.
I mean, I'm sure the PETA
movie does for me that really works though. It honestly kind of does have a little bit of a Jurassic Park 1 vibe for me. Just as far as like Act 1 is all about kind of like going on this African safari and kind of like the grandeur of it. We have this big reveal of this pride of lions on the rock, and and that almost kind of plays as like the brontosaurus scene, you know what I mean, where it's like everyone's all stoked to be out on the savannah and stoked for what else they're gonna find. But then shit goes wrong. There's a Jeep involved. There's actually a Jeep going over the side of a cliff. That's a plot point. There's a moment in the third act involving the lion and the two kids that very much feels like the Jurassic Park kitchen scene. There's a lot of Jurassic Park in here, but I like it. As a matter of fact, it is a Universal movie. So at a certain point, the main teenage daughter of Idris Elba is full on wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt. So I feel like this movie is kind of like wearing its Jurassic Park roots on its sleeve. But I feel like it differentiates itself enough from Jurassic Park as far as the lion is an interesting angle. It is pretty good CG. Like I said, there are moments that are wonky, but overall, for the budget it's at, the CG is pretty convincing. And there's also quite a few tracking shots. Like it doesn't get like it's not as up its own. It doesn't try to be like 1917 or something where the whole movie's a tracking shot. But there are quite a few of them throughout the movie, where it's just kind of like following the character, and I feel like there are quite a few moments where it's like the camera's kind of like lingering and not showing you the disturbing thing right away, and instead lingering on the character's reactions to said disturbing thing. All that stuff worked really well for me. And so, I don't know, Dragon, essentially this movie, very much a B movie for sure, but I think the combination of like Idris Elba, the unique environment with the African savannah, the Jurassic Park flourishes, and then the high production value tracking shots, it kind of bumped it up to a surprising A. And Dragon, I would not be surprised if this movie ends up being like, like The Resident Old or Ma or something like that, where it's where it ends up being in my top 20 in spite of being just kind of like a borderline throwaway little B movie. I really connected with it. Like it did a lot of things. Like I didn't connect with it as far as like the actual like characters or storytelling goes, but I connected with it as far as the filmmaking is concerned. I really thought that I had a few like this is a movie moments in the theater, Dragon. Just in the sense that, like I said, for a late October 90-minute high concept thriller, I think this is better than it should be. I actually quite enjoyed it. And I would not be surprised if I enjoyed it enough and if my experience in the theater was positive enough that it might have a place on my top 20 by the end of the year.
Late August.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. Just real quick, the lion thing, I just completely forgot to mention this because I didn't want to talk about the movie much. Again, with Me Time, Kevin Hart does have a very bad CG fight with a lion.
Oh God,
like a female mountain lion, because like he's taking a crap in a bucket, and
of course he is.
Yeah, there's a lot of poo humor in this, I will say. Regardless, little kitten comes up. It's not a kitten, it's like a little mountain cub, and then like the lion is chasing after him, and he gets into a fight with it. It's very, very CG. It's kind of like the lamest version of this Idris Elba. Like, you don't have him like kicking, like he injects it with like an EpiPen, mind you, so he doesn't die. But still, it's like not really like Idris Elba awesomely kicking this lion in the face. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some TV, Dragon.
Yeah.
Better Call Saul, Season 6, Part 2. It's a goddamn masterpiece. Dragon, I do have one question. I have one question for you as far as Season 6, Part 2 goes.
What do you got?
When all is said and done, do you think we really needed all 4 of those Gene episodes?
Well, let me think, because we do need the 3 episodes that we get after the 10 are very much like an El Camino-esque kind of movie finale, and I do think that is pivotal to the story. And I think we need, if I remember, We do the episode that in my heart of hearts, I think so. I think we do. I think we do because episode 10 is very much like we could have ended it here and we ended on a Gene story. Very much like, we could have ended it here, but much like Saul Goodman, it's almost like Buzz Lightyear in the toolbox in Toy Story. It's like if he just stopped, but it keeps pushing and pushing and it kind of falls off the table.
Ironically enough, I think out of the four of them, Breaking Bad is probably the one that feels the least essential.
Well, what do you mean?
I just mean because that episode is basically just more of Saul pulling cons with with Jeffy Boy and getting in too deep. It's just kind of like I don't know. It just kind of feels like we maybe could have had the events of that episode and Nippy condensed into one episode potentially.
I don't know. Well, wait a minute. Isn't it the same? Oh yeah, sorry, never mind. No, you're right. Yeah, sorry. I was getting the episode names confused for a second. Literally, Breaking Bad is the right. Okay, but I don't know that to me feels like we needed that because we need to show that again. It's like Saul Goodman, the history repeating itself, and it's his character flaw that's going
No, that
to
is
basically
true. I
equate
think the
to.
most pivotal part of that episode is kind of like the cancer thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's just
Uh-huh.
that episode just does feel like again that's kind of your 3 episode kind of like setup, and you need you need Breaking Bad just to kind of remind
And then
you like.
obviously you need Waterworks. Waterworks is one of the best
Mhm.
episodes of the series. So
So that's the thing. I don't know. I feel like they were all pretty pivotal to you. I think they all flowed into again kind of
all
like
right,
quite
that's
the.
fair. That's fair. And yeah, I think Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul just Dragon. I'm about midway through season 2 right now. I'm kind of barreling towards Chuck's death. And what I'm realizing is that I'm realizing the whole show is kind of framed around the death of Chuck and the death of Howard, these two oppositional figures in Jimmy's life. And it's really interesting to look at the show through that lens, where the death of Chuck is kind of like the big, like halfway turning point, and then the death of Howard is going to be like the big sort of thing that brings everything crashing down.
So I mean, looking back on season 6, though, I like how the first half is build up and it's the long con of the Hamlin con, and part 2 is very much it's the end game. It's the death. It's the actual death of like Jimmy McGill, the character, and it's basically what do we say about our anti-hero in the show in our last kind of half here. That's really much what the last half is very much the character study, where the first half is the story of the show overall. Like what kind of leads to okay, well now that we've kind of seen like the ultimate con unfold before our eyes. Like what do we say about the Saul Goodman of it all? And obviously Carol Burnett quite pivotal at the end of the series. I would not have predicted that way back in season 1. Yeah.
Is it controversial to say that I think the season finale or the series finale of this is better than Felina?
I don't, I'm not sure if that's
Because I
controversial.
do. I genuinely think it's one of the best series finales I have ever seen. It's just pitch perfect as
I
far
mean,
as I'm concerned.
I still cling to the statement that I think objectively, not just in my opinion, I really think objectively, Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad
Mm-hmm.
because and it's literally a straight line because it already starts off essentially. And I'm not saying that in terms of it's so much better, but I'm saying that in terms of
No, your
of
argument's always been, and I agree. It literally starts off like when the crew of Breaking Bad is at its height.
yeah. And then from that point, each season progressively gets better. So it's just starting from like the best point already, and then it kind of progressively gets better and better and better. So it's kind of hard to like. I think
You,
it's.
when we get to our ranking seasons, though, do you really think it's just going to be like all the Breaking Bad seasons and then all the Better Call Saul seasons? It's really going to be that much of a straight line to you?
I mean, Breaking Bad will be less of a straight line. Better Call Saul, I really have no idea because that's going to be the tough one because that'll be like I think I really do think the show just does progressively get better each season. But by the same token, though, it's kind of like there may be some greatest hits I like more in certain. It's going to be really hard to rank the Better Call Saul side of it. Breaking Bad could be all over the
I
place
think
in terms
Better
of.
Call Saul, the tricky seasons to rank are going to be 3 and 4.
I mean, yeah, because obviously 3 has some of my favorite episodes in it, so that's gonna
And
be
then
tough.
4 just has, like, for my money, the best Mike stuff in either show.
I know. That's yeah. It's gonna be
All right.
tough.
Anyways, we literally have a whole other podcast to
Point
talk about
being,
this
Better
show.
Call Saul, some of the finest television ever made. I think we can say
Indeed.
that much. Okay.
All right, let's see. So what else do we have on the docket? We have The Sandman Season 1, another masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. A masterpiece of adaptation.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this ever since Lucifer, which basically was an offshoot of Sandman. Oddly enough, we did not use that Lucifer, so it's kind of ironic how that worked out. But show itself could have failed miserably because this is like one of those Watchmen, like they will
Easily could
never
have
be.
failed miserably. It so easily could have.
This is like the other Watchmen, if you will. This is like the other, like, oh, they'll never. It's like the unadaptable comic.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we
very
adapt
much
it.
so. I would say, like, we've made this argument before when talking about the show. Watchmen, I would say, is way more easy to adapt than this because Watchmen, at the very least, has a pretty rigid 3-act structure to it.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just a lengthy 3X, but yeah,
It is, yeah, but still,
yeah, for sure. So, so I mean, again, the only things everything's so great in the same. The only thing that didn't work for me was I think the Rose Walker plot line was the only thing that kind of dragged for us, and it was only for like an episode or two technically. So that was like the
and
worst
there is still some really, really good, compelling stuff in the Rose Walker plot line, specifically
Yeah.
revolving around her brother and what's actually going on with him.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's more her brother than her, and that's but yeah. Also,
I
it's
think
kind of
it's
a
fair
bummer.
to say you and I are both not fans of Rose Walker or her roommates. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't need.
those characters really resonated with us.
Like, I need Rose Walker, meeting the Green, meeting like fit something Greens, but
Fiddler's Green.
Fiddler's Green. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Meeting Fiddler's Green, and we need her, finding her brother. Like, that's what we need. Like, her interacting with every time she's in a scene with the Sandman. That's what we need. Yeah. Everything else, I don't need her to like do it with the Sean Hayes lookalike guy, like going to his cabaret. I don't need that.
Sean Hayes lookalike guy.
He looks exactly like Sean Hayes. It's eerie. But that's like, I mean, the only other thing that bothered me in the show is that I think we did do it because of we did so well not using the DC characters in this, where it didn't really get in the way of the story. The only time it did was the Joanna Constantine thing. It doesn't break it; just makes her like less cool than Constantine is. It's like, oh, Constantine just visually it's so much more interesting. It's just like, okay, just kind of an English lady who has magic. That's about it. Anyway, but yeah,
I think what absolutely makes the show work, and it just would not be the show it is without Tom Sturridge. I think Tom Sturridge is just a fucking revelation in this show.
I think he really should get an Emmy. I think he did a good. Well, yeah. Would he be up against Better Call Saul if he were up for the Emmys this year?
He would technically be up against the last 6 episodes of Better Call Saul.
Really? Do they the Emmys just doesn't kind of combine it all into one?
Better Call Saul is technically going to be eligible for the next round of Emmys because of the way they broke up.
Weird. Okay, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I could see him being nominated. I don't know if I want Better Call Saul to win, obviously, but still, though, nomination, sure.
I would be I don't see him winning, but I would be happy with him winning just because it is such an infinitely challenging and iconic role that I think he just absolutely just depthly nailed.
Oh, unequivocally, yes. I mean, that's because he brings so much. Again, I keep using the Dr. Manhattan thing, where it's like you have a character who, like, every little very minor twinge conveys like a really huge emotion for this character.
Totally.
And he did that so well. He was like a whole episode where he's practically silent.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I think that's
how we introduce him is practically silent.
That's the thing. So the few standouts we should mention, of course, David Thewlis was amazing.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I love how he was sympathetic yet deeply, deeply twisted. Ultimately, the charisma of Boyd Holbrook was great as the Corinthian man. Like the Corinthian is like kind of like essentially a bit player in the Sandman, but we gave him such a great kind of like we built him up.
That was a really good adaptation choice in a series that's filled with great adaptation choices. The diner episode was fantastic. The death episode was fantastic.
Now, with the death episode, that's episode 6, in which we have death, and we also have the pub. Well, the pub.
And both things were great. Both things just executed just flawlessly.
Just episode 6 is my favorite, man. I love it.
And then, of course, the bonus episode we got with the Dream of a Thousand Cats and Calliope, both just home runs in their own right. Dragon, I really, really, really hope this show gets picked up. I really I want more of it.
I really want to see that Midsummer Night's Dream
Midsummer Night's
episode.
Dream. I know you and me and every other Sandman fan, man.
Because we set it up in my favorite episode with the Shakespeare thing.
I
We
know.
gotta see it pay off.
All
We gotta.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Good on, I like that we had Neil Gaiman involved in the process, and look what happens. We had some great shows from it. All right.
Okay. Let's see. My next. Yes, I am. Okay, Trainwreck.
Well, our next, Tiki.
What?
Our next. I saw this too.
Oh, you did. Okay, Woodstock
Yeah.
'99, Trainwreck. Did you see the feature documentary about this?
I did, and I thought this was better.
Okay, that's funny that you mentioned that because I actually thought the feature was better.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe it's like a taste thing with me, but I loved that there's like even though it's split up, there's like a 3-act structure with the 3 episodes, and I really
Well,
like
it's easy to do a 3-act structure with this thing because it's the
yeah,
3 days.
exactly. So I really liked. I don't know. I like that
Yeah.
each episode is essentially dedicated to a day, and in doing so, I think what you have here that the other documentary, at least for me, was I think the other documentary kind of droned on a little bit and it was more focused on look all the musical talent we have. Or this one's all about like again, it's the structuring of the end. This one feels again like the Netflix. It's kind of like the other Firefest things. This one feels more like Fire than the what is it? Just the Fire Fraud thing that was on Hulu or what have you. In terms of I love the building the dread the way we do in this, man. Build the way we build the dread, and we have like Pitbull essentially inciting a riot. It's, sorry, not Pitbull, Limp Bizkit. Sorry, Limp Bizkit essentially inciting a riot. Yeah, it's just that's what really kind of grabbed me about this.
So I don't know. You're not wrong in any of your points. I guess for me, it's just I thought the actual feature film, I very much disagree about how it drags on. I didn't think it dragged on at all. I thought it was very much just a quick like building of chaos and whereas with this I feel like by having it be each episode being 3 days, the 3 days, the thing about that I don't really think worked for me compared to the other one is that I don't necessarily think the 3 days have an equal amount of interesting stuff going on. Like, I think really the interesting stuff at the core of the story is night two. And then, when things just completely go to shit on day three. But really, the build up there, and it is solid. You're right, it is solid build up. I don't know. I just think getting that build up in the form of the feature film, and having the people there in the feature film, and having their having their stories, and the story of the person that was trampled to death that they were looking for in the crowd, that really hit. I mean, there's definitely stories that hit here too. And it definitely is a taste thing. Dragon, as you know, I've said this for a while, but I just kind of generally prefer my documentaries to be more feature length than episodic. That's just kind of how I like the
Well, I
format.
mean, I like a feature documentary as well. Too. Unfortunately, not all the documentaries are made like features, though. That's
Yeah.
sad. I believe if I had an option, I would probably lean towards that as well.
Well, I'm just saying, I think this was worth watching, but out of the two, I do prefer the feature film. But hey, subjectivity.
I won't lie. After watching this, it does make me kind of want to go back to the other one to see how maybe I was because I only saw the other one once. And I haven't watched this again or anything, but it's still I don't know. It's kind of like a recency thing or
Yeah, I know.
not.
I just think the other one had stuff that just hit with me more.
I mean, the only thing I can really say about this one, additionally, before we move on, is that I mean, I like how it's like by day 3, like the horror is just kind of sinking in. It's just almost like a festering wound sort of thing. Literally with the whole with the with the water situation. Like each day has like a deterioration of water. Like it's overpriced. To we're desperate, so we have to buy the water.
Uh-huh.
To then it's like the water is completely entrenched in fecal stuff and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And it's like people
Yeah.
are getting sick from it. It's like oh my god. It's like it's almost like kind of like a Lovecraftian sort of like you're adrift at sea kind of thing, man. It's like I don't know. There's something kind of like there's like a and the people realizing the horror as they're recapping the story about like realizing women have been raped. It's like I don't know. It's like kind of like a true kind of like a I don't know, it's kind of realization of it that goes on within the 3 days. I don't know. But that's point being, it's either way, you're not going to
What
miss
you
it.
just laid out is literally like that same thing is laid out in the
You
documentary.
know what it
So.
might be? And again, I have to watch the feature again to know if there's
Uh-huh.
really a difference here. Maybe I'm just misremembering it, but maybe it's that it's there's not. I think you linger more in the three episode structure. I think maybe that's it. It's kind of it's something more intimate about it. Perhaps I'm
That's
not
fair.
sure. Maybe.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so let's see. Next up, Orville. All right.
Yes, Orville, New Horizons. This is basically Orville season 3. They rebranded it with New Horizons. Essentially, yeah, this is a show that keeps getting better, Tiki. I can't recommend the Orville highly enough
No, I
to you.
mean, I believe it's good, Dragon. I just it just doesn't seem like it'd be up my alley. I just can't see myself getting into it.
Well, that's the thing, Tiki. If you're worried about if it's like, have you never historically been in the Star Trek at all, or is it?
That's definitely part of it, and also just the fact that I don't necessarily find something like Galaxy Quest to be all that funny. I know.
Well, let
Uh,
me put it to you this way: I can't promise you like after one. Like, I don't know. I think at a certain point, the first season would win you over. I still don't know
okay,
how
but that's
fast.
the thing, Dragon. It's like me and my time. It's like it's not something where it's like I can't just start watching it just in the hopes that eventually it clicks with me.
Well, it's not the hopes I'm telling you. Like definitely by the season 2, I know it will get you. It's just a question of you getting there. That's the leap.
Well,
Look, all I can say is, regardless, it's it's a show that kept getting great. And like season 3 is added, it's even more perfected than it ever was as it was getting better along the way. It's like I find that Orville will be like kind of digestible Star Trek. Like you don't have to be involved or start from like watch all the Star Trek episodes. It's like kind of a literally a next generation Star Trek for. It's like this is the greatest. This essentially is kind of it for the new kids on the block. This is essentially like a summation of it, but it's got a bigger budget. It's got a lot more freedom thanks to the Hulu infusion, which is why it's called New Horizons, by the way. It's second for all, because he's doing so much behind the scenes, he's really not in in the show much this season. He has a minimal role, but he does what the episode that he does have has a lot of dramatic heft, and that's the biggest thing that this season has going for it. Where over time, especially since season 2 onward, and it was in season 1, it was kind of creeping in there, and season 2 they're kind of rocking with it, and 3 it's full on this. They're not afraid to not be comedic. Like there's some humor and there's gags there, but it's like they're not afraid to like lean into like we're doing a Star Trek show, which is about kind of drama and social relevance and kind of like kind of the sci-fi moral stuff. And I'll tell you, man, the guy who plays Bortus, who essentially is like Worf from Star Trek, the black guy with the prosthetics, Peter McCone, he kills it this season, man. He gets episodes that were so the Bortus is the MVP this season, man. A lot of characters get the shine, but Bortus has this whole thing where he had a daughter and his race is all male, and like femaledom is like the worst heresy that can happen. So the kid was forced to have a sex change, and he always felt really terrible about that.
I actually heard about that. Like, of course, the anti SJWs of the world threw a fucking hissy fit about it.
Yeah, but I mean, the episode kind of tackles that really well, though. Kind of tackles that whole thing, and it's just then this season pays that off, where the kid finds out about it because time has passed, and it was just really good stuff, man. And it ends really nicely too. Like we're at war with the Kalons. We find out what the
Right,
Kalons are up to.
sci-fi. Just sci-fi by itself is just not my thing, man. It's just the whole thing. I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's well produced. I'm sure it's well written. It's just not really my thing.
All right.
Okay, I'm sorry. So let's see. We have the South Park 25th anniversary concert. Dragon, this was awesome. This was really, really delightful. I liked this quite a bit. Essentially, all this is it's Matt Stone, Trey Parker coming on stage in the middle of Colorado. So literally, like giant South Park characters are being projected onto these big mountain ranges in the middle of the Colorado night. It's epic. There's just like these giant orchestrated renditions of all the classic South Park songs. Both Primus and Ween, Ween from the SpongeBob soundtrack. They're both on stage. Really really great stuff from Primus, who was one of my favorite bands, and also did the South Park theme song. Just a really really kick-ass show. It's about an hour and a half long, so it's almost more of a concert movie than it is a TV show per se. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. They really really went all out with the 25th anniversary. It's absolutely something where, like, I wish I could have been there in person. It seems like a once in a lifetime event, but I am glad it's preserved on film because it seemed like a really special occasion. All right.
Okay.
And Jesus Christ, Dragon, you have like 4 of them, right?
Yeah, there's a reason for it.
Okay, just bullet pointed as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, again, it was supposed to be less, but we didn't get through the one thing we were supposed to add this month, so it's not. All right.
That's true.
All right. So, Light and Magic. Long story short, this is an excellent documentary on ILM. Essentially, kind of turns into kind of a George Lucas documentary for a certain point. Mainly towards the beginning. I highly recommend this to you, Tiki. It's structured very well. Each episode dedicated to kind of a chapter in the kind of an evolving kind of chapter sort of thing in the building of ILM, in which you kind of start with, okay, we're working on A New Hope, and basically George Lucas needs a visual effects division to do these next gen visual effects, and that's where it starts, and we assemble the characters for the film, for the documentary essentially. Episode 2 is like I love the first episode builds up to George isn't happy. And then episode 2 is the big George Lucas. We do a deep dive into George Lucas, and it's really cool. And then it kind of goes from there. Of like, okay, so this is ILM kind of like continuing to get visual effects work, and then it kind of spins off into them having their own company, and you kind of follow like these kind of this ragtag group of visual effects artists who then are like, okay, well, we're now kind of like growing and evolving, and becoming big names in ourselves and things. And Lawrence Kasdan, the writer of Empire Strikes Back and the Indiana Jones and such and so forth, he directed these, so he's heavily involved in this show, which is rather appropriate. Nice. Given his ties to Star Wars and Lucasfilm and such. So yeah, I think really would like that. It's very much kind of like the Imagineering story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Empire of Dreams.
I mean, that's the thing, Teak. I'm glad that we finally have at least another contender. I mean, it's 6 episodes, but it is rather interesting. I mean, it's kind of obviously Empire of Dreams is like the best Star Wars documentary ever.
But like LIM isn't necessarily Star Wars, though.
That's the thing, though. It reaches beyond Star Wars. So I can't really compare the two. So it's kind of a hard comparison. Like that's more like the ultimate kind of Star Wars story with Empire of Dreams, where this is like you have like episode 2 is pretty much your Empire of Dreams. Like the beginning is in Empire of Dreams is kind of segmented out for like the first 2 to maybe 2.5 episodes. Mainly the first 2 episodes. Your George Lucas backstory and all that. So, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So again, I'd really it's a strong recommendation, but beyond that, okay. Let me moving forward here. Okay, I got a mystery show, Tiki. You ready for it?
Sure.
King of the Hill.
Oh, all of it, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, watched all 13 seasons. So, sorry, what?
And
so, some of the episodes had some familiar episodes along the way, but I tell you, man, I really enjoyed it. I did.
Good.
I really enjoyed it mainly because I adore the Hank Hill character, as you know. He's a very moral, simple Texan, very principled, loves propane. There's a good father-son story at the core. Hank and Bobby, to obviously the Hank and Cotton stuff. I like the neighborhood mentality of the 4 by the fence, and they're always fixing stuff and just doing handyman kind of stuff and just drinking and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you this though. Here's the unfortunate part of the binge. So I really hated Peggy Hill after 4 seasons. So I had 4 good seasons at the start. I liked her. Like the first 4 seasons,
I could see it. I could see it.
Literally after that 4th season, like after the body cast season, like after that,
that was the turning point.
I just hate her like so much. She's a Southern Dee Dee Pickles. I hate her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's absolutely Dee Dee Pickles, man. Like worse, possibly. I don't know. So and also I here's the thing. On principle, I detest hillbillies. So I didn't love Lucky, but he had his moments. In retrospect, I will say this. In retrospect, I wish they had. Wonder if they would have like done this as well. If it would have pulled back on Bill like lusting after like the Hill family, namely Peggy Hill, because like I love the Bill character, but that's like the only element that makes me a little creeped out. Like, nah, I know he's a weird guy, but that's like a little much. And Bobby kind of was he was really rocky in places, but he's kind of like the weird, lazy. Like, oh man, the boy certainly ain't right, Hank. You're not wrong. He ain't right. But I gotta tell you, man, I do love like the shining moments that Bobby had, like, the teachable moments. Where he respects and admires his father. Like, Bobby's good at stuff for a change. He's really good at shooting. He's good at determining steak quality. I'll tell you one thing. Binging this all on Hulu, I really wish it was on Netflix because the commercials watching 13 seasons gets old really fast.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And I'll tell you what really pissed me off. Okay, they did the dinosaurs thing from Disney Plus where they ordered it wrong. So I got
Oh
the
no.
last episode a few episodes earlier than it should have. It was like, oh man, that would have been such a great ending, and I got it early. No. So I mean, it ends quite well. And I gotta tell you, man, overall, I can see a lot of the DNA of F is for Family in this show, and obviously some of the voice actors that are in F is for Family are in this show. So it's kind of interesting seeing perhaps where they got a lot of inspiration from. So yeah, King of the Hill was good.
All right.
All right, then let's see. Lock and Key. All right, Lock and Key. This is the Joe Hill comic that was adapted by Carlton Cuse, our Bates Motel guy. Previously on Bates Motel, that guy. This is the last season. It was a planned out 3 seasons, so they got to end on their own terms. It flows very well. The closure, get growth, so it's actually a really good series. Again, I recommend it for the Bates Motel of it all because there's definitely some vibes there. You got a new bad guy this season that we set up at the end of last season, Kevin Durant, he's like a demon possessed British Revolutionary War captain, which is interesting. Climbed out of a well. It's basically a race for the keys. I mean, the worst thing I can say about this is there is like possession plot at a certain point in the season where it's like you're screaming at the TV, "It's not them! Wake up, you idiots! It's not him! He's not in the body!" But you get full circle closure, for them as a family, reeling over the loss of the first episode, via the magic keys. So overall, great series. There's a Bates Motel reference in the last episode, which I thought was really cute. Gonna mention the house looks like the Bates Motel. It's really funny. Okay, and lastly, this one's gonna go by real quick. So this is gonna define my catch up a lot, by the way. So AMC Plus did like one of those free watch-a-thon things for like a week. So they had like AMC Plus, which included Shudder, the horror network, which I had a lot of horror documentaries. So, Cursed Film season 2. I've been dying to do this whenever Shudder was back on the table. So I watched the second season of that. Cursed is basically about the whole the old Hollywood myths about cursed films and everything. The ones that really stood out, The Wizard of Oz, which they talked about, the old hanging Munchkin, and they talked about the movie Under the Rainbow with Carrie Fisher, which apparently is based on, the chaos with the Munchkins with the Wizard of Oz, which is not really true. Let's see, and they did a recreation of the Wicked Witch of the West getting burned, which was rather fascinating. It was seamlessly kind of recreated. It makes you wonder, like, did they have a camera shooting her under the thing? Where it's like, no, it's just recreated so flawlessly. Mm-hmm. And they cover stuff like Cannibal Holocaust, which is the infamous film that people thought people really cannibalized on film, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So that's fun. And that's it.
Okay, cool. All right, finally we will get into some catch up. Okay, let's see. Neither of us have very much here, but Dragon, so you said you have some horror docs.
Yeah, so pretty much horror docs in one movie. So here are the horror docs. Boris Karloff, the man behind the monster. So yeah, this was great, man. This was a delightful surprise. I said, oh my god, it's a feature-length Karloff documentary. I'm so in. It was quite informative. It's a loving look back on Boris Karloff. It's absolutely the horror that I can go for. One of the highlights is when they're talking about the Grinch and how Chuck Jones made the Grinch look like Karloff in the animation, and I had no idea he was very vocally against, him drowning the little girl, like him throwing her in the water and everything. And this was like a big, apparently there was like a bit of a feud between him and the director because he badmouthed him in the press a little bit, really just saying, no, I disagree with that choice. And they were like, hey, you don't badmouth the director in the 30s. You're in trouble, mister. So you had a little bit of that going on. Yeah, he was like the consummate professional. He got injured, doing doing all these monster roles over the years. He had like really bad. His leg was in a brace and stuff. So, but he never let on, man. Never flinched. There's really top quality actor. And this documentary came out like during the 90th anniversary of Frankenstein. So like last year, which was nice. So this is quite the treat, man. You want to learn more about Karloff? You get a vibe on who the guy was. I recommend this.
Okay, so yes, Where the Crawdads Sing. Yeah, this was it was decently good. I think if anything, it's based on a very popular book, and I got the vibe that it was probably a better book than it was a movie because it's one of those things where you can tell a lot of the dialogue was just like lifted directly from the book and stuff, and there's a lot of like voiceover that's probably like third person passages from the book. Uh let's see. Essentially, the whole plot of it is that there's this woman who grows up in the North Carolina swamps after being abandoned by her father at a young age. She basically grows up in the middle of the swamp in a cabin by her own. On her own, she becomes known as the Marsh Girl to the town. And one day, a body shows up, and people suspect that the culprit is the Marsh Girl. And from there, it's a courtroom drama where we have to prove the Marsh Girl's innocence by going through her backstory, how she became the Marsh Girl, how she survived out in the wilderness as a kid, what she's really like under the facade of her urban legend status within the town. And all that's really pretty good. I do think the most compelling stuff in this movie by far is the stuff in the childhood segments. Because that, like, honestly, I feel like you could have made a whole movie out of, just the idea of this girl being abandoned in the middle of the marsh in this like rundown cabin and just essentially having to fend for herself. I think that was a really compelling premise, and unfortunately, the movie does kind of do a bit of a time jump right after it starts to get really interesting in that direction. So, yeah, I do think the middle part of the movie is very much just like a pretty standard like romance novel type thing where, oh, her childhood friend has returned to war and he very much loves her and he's a good guy, but she's into this other guy who's a bad guy and he treats her wrong, and if only she could see it. And the childhood best friend doesn't like it. There's a lot of that, honestly. There's a lot of that, and frankly, watching it just makes me think I'm watching a Twilight movie at a certain point with the back and forth will they won't they love triangle bullshit. But the movie ends well. I do think the marsh setting leads to some really really fantastic cinematography and production design, and it's got some decent performances. So overall, I'd say it's like probably like a high 6, low 7. Just a pretty standard, nice little matinee. Nothing special, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. So, Hail to the Deadites.
Yes.
Yeah, this one really hit me in the feels, man. This was a very fan-driven Evil Dead documentary. It was very much like on the impact Evil Dead had on the fan community. Used like fan films and stuff as the main footage of like showing things. 'Cause I assume they really couldn't use a lot from the actual movie, so instead they used just like fan film clips. It had a lot of very moving stories. There's particularly this one. There's this man who named his son Ash after the movies, but the child died as an infant due to a lot of
Oh
surgeries and
shit.
stuff. It's one of those things. But here's the thing. So the father, it was like his dream to meet Bruce Campbell and tell him the story about his son and how much
Uh-huh.
down what happened there. And eventually he did. So that's good. But so the thing, I've met Bruce Campbell myself. So hearing Bruce Campbell mention that he had written a fan letter to like Steve McQueen, I think it was, really kind of elated me, because I had written Bruce Campbell a fan letter and gave it to him in person. And I was always paranoid, like, oh man, I wonder if Bruce Campbell's ever going to read that letter. I should like turn my head when I was walking out to see if he like reached for it or not, you know? But yeah, I mean, he summed up like the con experience so beautifully to me of just like what it was all about, like some of the interactions that he's had. And, it's, yeah, it gave me hope they actually, like maybe read that letter that I left him. 'Cause it sounds like he does read, and he kind of has like he's had stories of himself. It sounds like he gets it, man. I don't know. It's kind of like kind of personally very touching to me. So really, I think you get to see Bruce Campbell being charming with fans and stuff in places, and just in general, like it's the whole like how much Evil Dead meant to a lot of people, and like a lot of the collections and stuff. And I don't know, it was really neat.
Cool, cool. All right, and finally, I saw Freaky, which I've been meaning to see for a long time, actually. And I'm finally getting around to it because it's going to be part of the Blumhouse maze at Halloween Horror Nights, along with the Black Phone. And Dragon, this is a lot of fun, and actually, I could totally see you enjoying this because essentially, it's way more of a comedy than anything else. It's the selling point of like Freaky Friday, but with a serial killer. That's essentially exactly what you get. It's Vince Vaughn running around, like he's inhabiting the mind of a teenage girl has inhabited Vince Vaughn's body. And Dragon, just that in itself, just seeing Vince Vaughn just like have all these teenage girl reactions. And I think to me, one of the funnest parts of it was how this girl's friend group interacted with Vince Vaughn, and how they were both kind of weirded out by the situation, but also just kind of like immediately got on board for realistic reasons, like the fact that Vince Vaughn knows very intimate things about each of them. So yeah, Freaky was fun. That guy, it was. They should. That guy says they should announce. They should just name a romance movie, The War.
War,
Yes, War.
war.
All right.
What's it good for? Come on.
But yeah, I don't know. Freaky. It's a pretty solid little gimmicky horror comedy. Vince Vaughn is the obvious highlight, I think. Dragon, if you've seen Happy Death Day, I don't think you've seen Happy Death Day, but I think Freaky is even more accessible for him than Happy Death Day.
Yeah, I've been tempted with Freaky. I got to be honest, but I just haven't gotten.
I think you'd enjoy it. I think you should take the plunge. I can tell you, it's barely got any jump scares. It's really more of a comedy than anything else. I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily know how they're going to do a Halloween Horror Night maze out of it. Like I'm glad that this and the Black Phone are both in the same maze because I like both of these movies, but at the same time I don't like they both seem pretty self-contained, so having them both in the same maze will probably help.
Is that why you watch this?
What?
Is that why you watch this? Was it for the horror the Halloween Horror Nights?
Yes, that's exactly why I watched this. Yes.
Okay.
My Horror Nights is going to be 2 nights from Sunday, or 2 weekends from this coming Sunday. So yeah. Let's see. So yeah, I had fun with it. It wasn't my favorite of the month by any means, but I'm glad I saw it. I'm prepared for Halloween Horror Nights now. There's definitely a couple kills that I'm excited to see recreated in the maze. One involving a buzzsaw, and another that takes place in a blacklight mini golf course. That's definitely the big set piece that I want to see them recreate in the maze. So yeah, it's a fun time. Obviously, I think Vince Vaughn is the reason to see it. He really kills it. He absolutely commits to the bit. So yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I saved the best for last.
Oh boy.
Time after time. So I had been meaning to watch this all for so long, but it was never streaming or anything. And David Warner's passing, sadly, kind of finally motivated me to seek it out. I tell you, man, this was so freaking good. Oh my god, there's a Nicholas Meyer film. He had done a little bit of Star Trek. He did Wrath of Khan. Yeah, I tell you, this was marvelous. It's It's simple. It's 70s. It's compelling, and it's really cute in places too. Essentially, Malcolm McDowell, he plays H.G. Wells, who is demonstrating. He's in like what was it, the 17 Victorian era. He's in the Victorian
Oh.
era. He's demonstrating like the ideas. Like, what if there's a Better Call Saul tie-in for you kids? Like, what if H.G. Wells, who wrote the Time Machine, built a time machine before he wrote that book? So the idea is he's showing it off to his Victorian pals. Little does he know, one of his Victorian pals, played by David Warner, is secretly Jack the Ripper, and the cops are coming for him. And he goes into the basement and he hijacks the time machine to escape. And he ends up in 1979, which is when what basically was the modern day then.
Oh dear, Jack the Ripper in 1979 shenanigans.
Yeah, like they're not in London because the idea is the time machine doesn't move. It's like you're taken to where the time machine is. So like years like in '79, the time machine was put into a museum from on loan from the London Museum. Anyway, so the point being, H.G. Wells goes to the future to find him, and it's really you have like a lot of cute man at a time stuff. And Malcolm McDowell, like we're so used to seeing him all scary and such, but he plays it so innocently and so fun. He's like this nice guy. He has a very important task at hand. He's a smart guy. He's trying to find him, and he runs into like the bank teller. So the idea is like Jack the Ripper is going to go to the bank because he has to get his money exchanged from London, from English money to from pounds to U.S. currency. So he keeps searching the banks, and he runs into Mary Steenburgen, who did this before Back to the Future. And it's like she's fallen for him. She's falling in love with H.G. Wells. And it's nice in places. We do a really artful thing where Jack the Ripper, when he kills people, we don't do it in like a gory way, but we do it in like a psychologically gory way, where it's like in a POV camera thing, where it's like Jack the Ripper has like a serial killer thing. He has this little pocket watch, and it plays like a little Victorian melody as he lures the women and then kills them, and it's horrifying. And I'll tell you, man, the scene of the whole movie. So when we go to the hotel, which in real life, by the way, was modeled to look like this other book that H.G. Wells wrote that involved a hotel, which is like it was serendipity, the place they shot it. So it's like an H.G. Wells hotel. And it's the big scene where Malcolm McDowell finds David Warner, and they have this scene where they had this conversation in which they're talking about like, Jack, you don't Stevens, you don't belong here. And it's just like he turns on the TV and he shows all the violence of the culture and everything at the time, and like, no, you're wrong, Mr. Wells. You're wrong, Wells. You don't belong here. It's like, oh, seriously, he plays Jack the Ripper so fantastic, and it's like all the performances are good, and it's not like it's just very streamlined, very simple, and it's just builds to a really good climax. Oh, I love this movie so much; it was so good. I highly recommend it.
Is it fair to say it's your best?
Yes.
And what is your worst?
Well, not like you really have to ask. That was me time. Me time.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, it's funny, Dragon, because I feel like kind of like across the board, all my movies were like 6s and 7s. Like there weren't any that really blew me away, but there weren't any that were like offensively bad either. So because of that, I think for best, I'm probably gonna have to go with Beast, surprisingly. Because I did enjoy it. It exceeded my expectations. There were definitely some cinematography tricks along the way, and some cool Jurassic Park flourishes that kind of elevated what could have been a very basic B movie. And then for worst, I know this is going to be unpopular because, like I said, I feel like the film Twitter people of the universe, and like the Letterboxd crowd, they like this movie a lot more than I do. But I'm gonna have to go with Emily the Criminal. I was mostly just bored through a lot of that movie, and like I said, it wasn't even the best performance I've seen from Aubrey Plaza. I was just like, oh, okay, Aubrey Plaza can put on a New Jersey accent and act tough. Good for her. I don't know. It was just kind of like a little nothing of a movie. And people are just saying like, oh, it's such a shame that Emily the Criminal got buried at the box office. It's such a damn good underrated movie. I'm like, really? That's what we're gonna go to bat for? Okay. But yeah, overall, Dragon, very, very scattered month of movies. Fair to say. So after a pretty successful summer, this was kind of a little bit of a rough landing. All right, well, folks, we have waxed on long enough, and it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our movie memoirs. Zaslav!